Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Los Angeles City Council. Today is Friday, March the 3rd, 2006, and we are here in room 340 on the 3rd floor of City Hall in the John Ferraro Council Chambers, where we have our meetings each Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. We invite members of the public down here in person and also in our Van Nuys remote facility to give testimony at our Van Nuys City Hall via remote camera. We also are being broadcast on Channel 35. I'd like to welcome our Channel 35 viewers who are watching us either live or on our rebroadcast in the evening. We also can be found on our city's homepage, www.lacity.org, where there's a wealth of information about the city, about your elected officials and the legislation that we are considering. You can also call in on Council Phone, which is a phone service that you can listen to the proceedings of our committees and of the Los Angeles City Council via telephone. We have 15 members of the Los Angeles City Council, and I want to thank Council members Gruhl, LaBonge, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson for being here. As soon as there are 10 members, or 2/3 of our body, we constitute a quorum to conduct official business. But each Friday, as is customary, we have a number of presentations honoring members of the community and achievements by city workers and folks who are in our neighborhoods. And we have 5 presentations for today. And I'd like to first welcome something that has become already a nice tradition around here with Councilmember Herb Wesson from the 10th Council District to let our folks know out there about some of the animals they may adopt from our city shelters. So with that, we'll recognize Mr. Wesson for our first presentation of the day.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, members. Today is the continuation of the newly created Adopt a Pet program, which we do here at the council chambers twice a month. I'm proud to have in my hands a drop-dead gorgeous young lady who has been given the temporary name of Miracle. So her name can be changed. But they called her Miracle because I wanted a small, cuddly dog, and she just fell into their hands, and that's why they call her Miracle, because they got the dog I wanted. Now, let me give you some particulars about her. She is female. Oh, look at that daddy's baby. She's female, 10 months old. She's a Chihuahua mix, and she is ready to go home with anybody that wants her today. She's healthy with all of her shots. She's been spayed and microchipped. I mean, she is ready to go home. She's looking for a home. She will be a great companion animal. She's just, like I say, she's a daddy's little baby. And well, her temporary name is Miracle. You can change it. You can change it, Councilman Rosendahl. If
he wants to pet it because he loves dogs.
Yeah.
Aww.
But Miracle is looking for a home, and if you do call the phone number is 888-452-7381. Miracle's ID number is A776941. If you call our great shelters and find out that she's already been adopted, I want you to know that we have hundreds of pets. We have 6 shelters. Please come down and get a companion animal and give them a home. Again, this is Miracle. She's ready to go home today. I wish Mr. Reyes was here because she's from Mr. Reyes's district. Anyway, Mr. President, any takers? Anybody want to take this little cuddly one home? Please, again, call 888-452-7381. Thank you so much. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your efforts on behalf of the animals of Los Angeles, Mr. Wesson. Next, I'd like to recognize Mr. Weiss for a presentation from Council District Number 5, Jack Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just talking with the volleyball team here about how, everybody, come on up. In showbiz, you never want to follow a dog. But I will try our best to follow on Mr. Weston's presentation of Miracle and introduce all of you to the 2005-2006 Division III CIF Final Champion Volleyball Team. And Mr. Labange, thank you, from the Notre Dame Academy in my district. Now, I'd like to ask the principal, Ms. Tyhurst, to come up here for a second, because this is not the first time we've had Notre Dame champions here in this arena. It's a wonderful record that Notre Dame has established. It is a school with the highest academic standards, but consistently, year after year, we see their teams back here in this chamber because they're winning important championships. And it's not a miracle, I guess, that you guys are here. It's due to your hard work, your dedication, your teachers, your coaches, and we're going to hear in a moment from the leadership of the school. We have the principal, Ms. Tyhurst. We have their coach, Mr. Brenner, and I want to bring up Megan Nash representing the team as well. We're very proud of all of you, and it's a real privilege to honor you here in council chambers today. We'd like to hear for a moment from each of you. Principal, Ms. Tyhurst.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us here. We are very proud of our young ladies. Yes, they are hard workers in the classroom and on the courts and the tracks and the hills, and we also want to recognize the fact that they're always community-minded. The girls do so much community service because they want to give back what they have received. They understand that it's a privilege to attend Notre Dame Academy, and we feel that it's a privilege to serve them, from the administrators, the teachers, to the staff. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Ms. Tyhurst. Now we'll hear from Coach Brenner for a moment. Coach.
Thank you to Councilman Weiss and the City Council for recognizing us. This group of young ladies showed an extreme poise, maturity, class in representing our school, and that was first and foremost on our minds when we developed this team. More than anything, they brought an effort and energy and a work ethic to the CIF playoffs that in my 26 years at the school has not been seen. And even we've been very, very successful. And I think that energy is something that has carried over, because I would like to say at this moment right now that our soccer team tomorrow night is going to be playing for the CIF Division V finals at Downey High School. And I believe that the energy that these guys have created has carried over to other athletic moments in our school, and we thank you very much. And I am extremely proud of these girls and feel privileged to have coached them, along with my assistant who is hiding in the back here somewhere, Aaron Gopin. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Coach. And finally, finally representing the players, and then representing the city, we'll go to Mr. Labange. But let's hear from Megan Nash first, Mr. Labange. Megan.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Megan Nash, and I'm a senior. And thank you for having us. This year was really amazing. It's a great way to end my career, and I love all my teammates. We worked really hard, and our coaches pushed us really hard, and we never gave up, and it paid off. So thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you
And
very
Mr.
much, Megan.
Labange,
Now to offer a rebuttal, we have Tom Labange.
But I'll just congratulate Notre Dame Academy. Wonderful,
What's their mascot, Mr.
wonderful
Labange?
school. I wish I knew, but my two cousins went to Notre Dame years and years ago, and on Overland there. But also, I'd like to invite Notre Dame back in 2 weeks to march as champions in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. If you get approval of your principal, it's on Friday the 17th, right down here. I'll give you a note so you don't get in trouble, Miss Principal. But we have a little march from 11:30 over to Pershing Square for a great little celebration of St. Patrick's Day. But congratulations, and hope you can do that. But you did something special. You became champions and you worked hard, not just this season, but every day of your lives. You really did. And you're going to teach other young women to be champions, which is so important, because this year, I think, is the 30th anniversary of Title go on, Jack, nine, very good, Title IX, where you all know Devin Rosenheim, Mr. Weiss, you know Devin Rosenheim, Brad Rosenheim's wife? She was the first athlete in Los Angeles City to break the barrier for a boys team, and then they forced, appropriately, more girls sports and athletics, so it's so important. So I'm just proud of each and every one of you as champions, because they can never take that away from you. Congratulations, Notre Dame. Thank you very much.
You asked about our mascot. Our mascot's a Regal. A Regal.
Notre Dame Regal.
Notre Dame Regals, yes.
Go Regals.
And yes, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Congratulations to Notre Dame. And they have a special, why don't you say that on the microphone? A special presentation for Mr. Weiss? All right. Well, congratulations, Mr. Weiss. Next, we'd like to recognize, led by Mr. Padilla, a number of the members from the San Fernando Valley for a special presentation. Mr. Padilla from the 7th District.
I know you're happy, so we're happy for you. Good morning, colleagues, and thank you, Mr. President. I'm joined by council members Smith, Gruhl, and Zine here, and Mr. Labonte and Mr. Weiss are welcome to join us too, as we represent the Valley delegation as we pay our respect and honor Kathy McGuire for her many contributions to the San Fernando Valley, and on the occasion of her retirement from the gas company. Her activism in the Valley spans literally decades. Her career with the gas company spans since 1987. I'm not doing the math here quickly. And you know, what can we say about Kathy? There's not a major institution in the Valley that Kathy has not been a part of, contributed to, or been a leader of, from the United Chambers of Commerce to the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, being the good face of the gas company in so many community and philanthropic efforts. And I'm particularly appreciative of her involvement and support with the Children's Museum of Los Angeles. So we wanted to honor her retirement from the gas company with an appropriate acknowledgement and recognition. And we do have the resolution here to give to her in just a second, but I want to afford my colleagues an opportunity to say a few words, and then we'll hear from Kathy herself. Ms. Gruhl?
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. And you can tell by the presence of so many council members from the Valley how important Kathy McGuire has been to the successfulness, I think, of bringing communities together to deal with a variety of issues, whether it be economic development and business tax reform, to supporting public safety, to supporting the Children's Museum. Kathy has been instrumental to any of those successes. I think she has chaired every organization in the Valley at one point in time, and her commitment is not just to be in that position. Her commitment has actually been to do something. And so it's been my distinct pleasure to work with her, but also to enjoy a friendship. And we have, as all of us do, we attend a lot of events, and I've been pleasant enough to, been able to have my husband and I to sit with you and your husband at many events and get to know one another and talk about your future plans for retirement, which it's way too early for you to retire. I only hope I can achieve that goal one day. But I know that you are still here with your heart will be here in the San Fernando Valley. Your heart will be in supporting the communities that you love, and you will be missed by so many of us here in the city family, but most of all from all the people in the San Fernando Valley who have benefited from your commitment and dedication. So congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm very pleased to be here. I've known Kathy for many of those, too many of those years that she's out there. And you know what's really great is Kathy had a job that, first of all, she had a big checkbook that wasn't hers. That's nice. But more importantly, unlike a lot of the representatives from large corporations and large institutions that go to lunch, pay their lunch fee, and leave, Kathy got in there and rolled up her sleeves and participated on almost all of them. And there wasn't a chamber, there wasn't an economic development group that out there, police department activity that Kathy just wrote a check, but she also rolled up her sleeves, participated, made it work, often chaired the events, often became president of the organization, and did a great deal of service to her employer, but more important to the Valley, which she loves so much. And so I want you to know, Kathy, if you leave us and get on your, still got your hog?
I've got a Corvette now.
Oh, a Corvette? Oh, she's up now from a motorcycle to Corvette, Dennis.
Yeah.
Okay, now she gets in her Corvette and goes north to the beach where she's going to live. I want you to know that you left behind not just a legacy of community involvement, but a stronger, better San Fernando Valley and better city of Los Angeles because of your involvement, not just your checklist. So thank you and God bless you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. For a lot of years.
Kathy McGuire. You're wearing your leathers. Your husband's wearing the leathers. People look at you, Southern California Gas Company, conservative organization, keeps people warm, keeps the food warm, and a Harley couple, a Harley Davidson, but now moved on to Corvette. I know all the wonderful things you've done. When I was first elected in 2001, I heard your name bandied around, and every time I went to an event in the Valley, you were there. Your husband was there many, many times. I don't know if you're already retired.
He is.
You're already retired. So you got two wonderful, retired, healthy people who are going to enjoy those wonderful opportunities. So I just want to say, coming from the 3rd District and all the great things you've done with the gas company and all the connections you've made with the people of San Fernando Valley, you've really carried the banner for the gas company, Sempra Energy.
Utilities.
Sempra Utilities. I know the name changed. But all the things that you've done, we're recognizing this morning, and I know the people who are watching know what you've done. So I wish you well, you and your husband, in the future years, the retirement. You're still healthy. You've still got a long way to go, and all those years to enjoy, but all the benefits that you've given to all of us in the San Fernando Valley. God bless you, Kathy.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
dear.
Thank you.
Kathy and Dan, congratulations and thank you. It's wonderful to work so hard, but to have an impact on community. And then you're going to a great part of the state, Morro Bay.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. But just you look at that Manny Mo and Jack. That's what I used to call it when I was at San Luis Obispo, the big PG&E plant, which I think somebody else owns now. But anyway, congratulations, Kathy McGuire, for all your years of service to the San Fernando Valley and the gas company and Sempra Energy.
So, Kathy, on behalf of my colleagues here, want to present to you this resolution. I'll skip to the resolved paragraph where it says, by the adoption of this resolution, the Los Angeles City Council, along with the mayor, the city attorney, and controller, hereby commend and congratulate Kathy McGuire for her 37 years of service to the gas company and to the community of the San Fernando Valley, wishing you great success in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Since it would be customary to have council members speak from their chairs, we'll add a minute or so that we can hear from our honoree.
Thank you. I heard the signal go off, so I'll make it very quick. It has really been a pleasure to work in the city of Los Angeles. Even though I was living in Santa Clarita, San Fernando Valley has always been my home. My parents have always lived there. I've lived there since I was really small. And being able to be part of this very large city and being able to help in some small ways in the San Fernando Valley area and coming to City Council on various items, I really appreciate everything that all of you do as council members, and some are very new and young, and then there's the old ones. Anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you all very much for the recognition. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Ms. McGuire. And
A great spot.
for our next presentation, I'd like to recognize from Council District 11, Councilmember Bill Rosendahl.
Okay, we'll take the picture.
We love the Valley, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Ho, ho, ho. Well, good morning, champ, wherever you are, because there are a lot of champs in the room here, and there are champs watching this on television. The group I'm talking about are true champs. They have really made a difference. I happen to be on the ad hoc gang committee, and the whole point of the ad hoc gang committee is to give young people a sense of self other than getting it through gangs, getting it through crime, getting it through drugs. To give young people an opportunity to excel, for young people to show the talent they have, for young people to be part of a group that every day talks about positive, creative ways in which young people can make a difference. And when young people make a difference as youth, they can get out of the gang culture. This is called Inside Out Community Arts. We're celebrating their 10th anniversary today. It's a grassroots group that started in Venice. It's located in Venice, but it extends throughout the city. It brings young people together, it teaches them the arts, and it gives them a sense of dignity and hope and a positive commitment. I have a whole script here to read, but I don't need to read any script. I know the group. I've had a wonderful opportunity of working with them over the years, and I'd like to introduce them right behind me as Lawrence Cohen and Drew Keplek, who are from the board. But joining me are Camille Amin and Jonathan Zeigner, who have put it together. And if I could ask Jonathan and Camille to come on up and say a few words. We do have a presentation which I'll present right after they speak. Jonathan.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. And that's Drew Kropelka, by the way, on our board. Thank you very much, Mr. President and honored council members, those of you who are here. It's a pleasure to be here. This award, of course, is shared by all of the many people who support this program, our board of directors, our staff, teachers, educators, and the kids themselves that come to it with such energy and heart. Exactly 1 month ago, we were in the White House receiving the Coming Up Taller Award, which is the highest award in this country for after-school arts education. And I say that not to brag, but because I need to make note of the fact that 2 days after that, the President cut the arts education budget in this country by $154 million. And I want to tell you that we're prepared to refuse this if that's going to be a trend. So I'm hoping that we're not going to see any cuts in arts education here. And I want to take a moment to address an old issue that has suddenly become new fodder for politicking and lots of attention, and that is the horrendous dropout rate in the Los Angeles Unified School District, which is something that everybody in this room cares about. Now, if I were a doctor and 60% of my patients died before their time, there would be a criminal investigation to see what the problem was. But it's not a mystery why kids drop out of school. They are not feeling engaged and respected. They are not being given a way to express themselves, and they're not seeing the classroom as a viable way to invest in their future. However, on Wednesday, I went to visit one of our sessions. And there was a teacher there from Henry Clay Middle School who came in to our program, as he does every Wednesday, and he spotted a young guy signing into our program, and he said to me, "That kid is in trouble. He cut my class today." But he showed up for Inside Out. I said, "Listen, do me a favor. Before you tell him why he's in trouble, ask him why he cut your class but came after school to a program that he does not have to attend." The fact of the matter is that the arts have been proven to make a difference in the classroom and every other area of people's lives. Kids who are exposed to the arts and do arts programming do better in class, they do better out of class, they're volunteers, and they are having more fulfilling lives. We have the solutions right here to make LAUSD stronger, and I am putting out a plea today to the mayor, to the council members, to the Board of Education to get together, put the kids first, bring the arts back into the classroom every single day. And by the way, the arts can be used in algebra classes, in social studies classes, in physical education and health classes. And the arts are a way to nourish the spirit, stimulate and discipline the mind, and they make people feel good. And that's what will keep kids in school. On each of your podiums is a packet from Inside Out Community Arts, and it talks about why the arts are important, why our program is making a difference. And I promise you, hi Wendy, I'm going to be calling every single one of your offices within the next week or so to set up an appointment to come and talk to you about how we can make a difference with constituents in your district. And we look for your support and your help on that. And please, please, get together. Let's all get together to make LAUSD stronger. We need a district that's not paying $55 for a box of paper.
Okay, yeah. Thank you all for this wonderful honor, and thank you especially, Bill. We really appreciate this. Very briefly, I just wanted to give you a few quotes from the kids that we have served, because they speak volumes. We asked them after the program, what did you learn? And we get quotes like, I learned I am not dumb. This is an arts program, but kids are learning. You know what they're getting at home or at school when a child says, I learned I am not dumb. We also got a quote from a young lady who said, 12 years old, a little girl from Nightingale Middle School, who said, sometimes when I want to give up, I think about Inside Out and I keep going. And then we got a letter from a young man now in college, and we work with middle school kids, who wrote to us and said, Inside Out has had a profound effect on me. It has helped me overcome some of the most struggling times in my rough life. So we know what we're doing. We thank you for contributing to help us do what we do, and we hope we can be doing more. Thank you.
Thank you. And I might say, we have LA's Best. Everybody here is involved with LA Best. This is an example of the expression of the best of Los Angeles. Arts are in all of us, and if we give it a chance to come out of ourselves, it helps us become a whole person. And to use Inside Out community arts, it's a great way to say to ourselves, there's more to us, and art is a way we express ourselves. It's a preventive strategy when we talk about young people and we talk about gangs. And I'm delighted that we're here before you all, colleagues, and I look forward to your support for Inside Out as we go forward with other projects. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. Next, I'd like to recognize for a final presentation a council member from the 8th District. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Bernard Parks for a final presentation.
We're going to go in the back. Let's go in the back. Come on, we're going to do one in the back. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask Herb Weston to come up. Oh, no? Okay, I'm not going to ask Herb Weston to come up. Let me ask Mr. Robert Owens to come up. And also, and Kitty. Mr. Owens, many of you may recognize, has been the executive director of the Kedron Health Center for 35 years. He started in 1965 as an assistant teacher, and he rose through the ranks to executive director in 1971. I first met him on Crenshaw Boulevard, and I believe it was, a fire that basically destroyed his facility in the early stages. At the time he was hired at Kedron, it was one of the smallest public safety or public health agencies in Los Angeles. Now it's grown to one of the largest in the nation, serving over 2,300 families in this city. In '74, Mr. Owens drew up plans for a one-stop family service center and developed a vision for Head Start, for which focused on a holistic approach to serving the entire family. He felt that providing services to the entire family was the way to truly impact and empower families. Mr. Owens' dream of developing a family service center with programs for the entire family, an infant toddler center, vocational training, after-school programs, and sports and activity center all came to fruition. He states that Kedron's philosophy is based on providing programs and services for family members from the cradle to senior citizenship. Under the direction of Mr. Owens, Kedron has been a leader in providing literacy service to children and families. It's become one of the first Head Start programs to receive Everstart Family Literacy Grant. Due to the program's success, is awarded funding through First 5 LA as a model family literacy program. Under Mr. Owens' leadership, Kedron continues to build programs and services to meet the needs of families. Mr. Owens earned his bachelor's degree from secondary education from Grambling University, and that's the Tigers, right? Grambling Tigers. Grambling Tigers. And also, he's graduated from UCLA Anderson Management School of Business. Will not hold that against you. Mr. Owens has been happily married for more than 35 years, has one daughter, He continues to have the same unwavering dedication and love for Head Start that began in 1965. Mr. Owens will retire from Kedron after more than 40 years of service. And so we asked he and his wife and members of Kedron to come here today to give Mr. Owens a proper send-off and say thank you for all of the accomplishments. We know that you may be retiring, but we certainly know you're not going to be leaving the issues that you think are most important, and that's dealing with family care and health of young people. And so I just want to say thank you for your 40 years and really appreciate it from the City Council.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Mr. Owens, it's been a great 15 years. I want to say thank you for your 41 years of marriage, thanking your wife for sharing you with us for 41 years, and dedicating to improving the quality of lives to all who have come in your path, the families and children that God has entrusted in your care. God bless you, and thank you.
I want to say thank you, Councilman Park, and thank you, fellow council members. And I would like to say, I couldn't have done that. I would like to recognize my staff. Would you stand up, staff? The next person who's been with me, Ms. Donna Dunroff, is the Assistant Director. Thank you, Donna, for being here all these years. All I can say, I've been there, and I'm not about to sit down because my wife won't let me stay at home. And what I told Councilman Park, I met him, and I will be doing all I can to continue to support Councilman Park, to support the C, for the welfare of the families that we serve throughout the city of Los Angeles. I want to thank you very much for this opportunity and for this award. Thank you again, sir.
We're going to go in the back and take some photographs. Okay. In fact, you have the staff come back.
Thank you all very much. And that concludes our presentations for this morning. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Huizar, Labange, Padilla, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 13 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. I want to reiterate that the two members who are not here, Ms. Perry, who is at the Air Quality Management District representing the city, and Mr. Cardenas, who's also excused on city business, have excused absences. Otherwise, we have a full council here. It is first order of business now, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Zine moves and Mr. Smith seconds. If there's no objection, that's unanimous vote, so ordered.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Padilla moves and Mr. Huizar seconds. If there's no objection, that'll be unanimous vote, so ordered.
Mr. President, this is a time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda.
Okay. I'd like to invite folks forward. If folks that are standing in the back would like, there's plenty of seats if folks would like to sit, and I'd like to invite forward for comments right now Xochitl Lujan, Bruce Darian, and Bruce Campbell as our first three speakers for public comment. Welcome.
Thank you, City Council members. Good morning. My name is Xochitl Lujan. I'm with the Chicana and Chicano Studies Alumni Association at California State University, Dominguez Hills. And the reason I'm here today is to speak partially in regards to the South Central farmers who are located over on 41st Street in Alameda. And it's come to my attention that there's a dire issue going on with the farm. The City Council, I would hope, is taking much looking into this extremely important situation that's taking place at the farm. As they've been evicted, the farmers use that land for supplemental food. It's a safe place for the children in the community. And we just heard a few speakers talking about gang prevention through arts. Well, this place is also another way that the students of the community, the children of the community and their families can take refuge away from things like gang violence. I take my daughter personally there every Sunday. They also have a farmer's market for the community. These are things that that city also needs. And it's not being met by the situation that's taking place right now. I would like to know what's going to happen to all those children who are at the farm. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, I'm addressing you.
And we're listening to you. Please carry on.
There are some members who are going on and speaking, and it's rather rude. I'd appreciate your attention.
Please continue.
Thank you. So I'd like to know what is going to happen to those children, those families, 350 families plus. When we talk about 350 families, we're talking about more than 350 people. We're talking about the families, all of them. That means the women, the children who work on that farm, who farm that land.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Our next speaker is Bruce Darian.
Good morning, City Council members. My name is Bruce Darian. I'm here to discuss matters involving the Malibu Pier. As the council may be aware, the pier was closed 11 years ago, and Alice's Restaurant was closed 9 years ago. The world-famous landmark, Malibu Pier, has now taken 7.5 years of construction and $8.5 million of the state taxpayers' money to renovate, and it is nowhere near completion. The project has taken less than a year, should have taken less than a year and $2 million, and because of the fraudulent, corrupt, and questionable contract dealings with the contractors on the project, this project now sits far from complete. I would like the council to take a look at investigating the corrupt dealings revolving around the project, in that it is connected with past city officials, namely ex-mayor Reardon, and what his involvement is with the Malibu Pier project. I think that it is a disgrace to the city of Los Angeles that the taxpayers have funded this project that has clearly violated both state and federal law, and that myself as a whistleblower in United States federal court, I can tell you with certainty that the claims that are being made on the public coffers to pay for all of this are not only questionable, but are illegal. And I think that if we have a comprehensive investigation into this illegal public contracting, that the public will be far better off in the future contracting projects that are in both the city of Los Angeles and the surrounding area that the people here in Los Angeles are footing the bill. As the council may remember, I spoke here last week regarding the relationship of Reardon and the Malibu Pier, and I think that under your whistleblower disclosure hotline that you have in your ethics office, that this certainly falls within your whistleblower program. That high-ranking officials are involved in public contracting and questionable deals, and warrants your attention to this matter, and I would like to see it put on the agenda on the following council meeting so that this can be more closely examined by the council members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darian. Bruce Campbell is our next speaker.
Good morning, council members. My name is Bruce Campbell. I'm from South Central Brentwood. So the eviction notice has been served on the South Central farmers to be gone by midnight between Monday and Tuesday. And a lot of issues tie together at the South Central farm, which is an oasis even if you're from the west side, and it would be an oasis in Pacific Palisades, let alone in South Central. You all supposedly don't like crime. What do you think crime's going to do in the area when this healthy environment is gone? You supposedly don't like gangs. Gangs have been leaving the area alone. They'll be back in the area. The community will be more alienated. There'll be more drugs and a higher dropout rate. And then what food choices do they have? There might be a little wilted produce, a little overpriced in stores. Basically, they'll have fast food, more obesity, more diabetes, more health costs. And then it's on the Alameda corridor for globalized goods, basically largely Asian sweatshop labor goods, to come into this region. Basically, you've deindustrialized South Central, so about their only choices are, unless they're very lucky, skilled, or fortunate, is prison and selling drugs, or working in a fast food place and not being able to pay rent with that, or scrubbing toilets. And we need city leadership. A deputy mayor has been taking leadership. Representative Waters and Mayor Villaraigosa have done a little bit, but everyone else seems to be a big zero on this, particularly Councilmember Jan Perry and City Attorney Rocky Delgadillo. I'm quite involved with Democratic politics, and believe me, this issue will come up repeatedly, that the so-called leaders from our district, including Speaker Nunez and a number in this room, when you want to vie for that higher office, you will hear reminders that you took zero leadership, and this is a serious issue, and the karma should weigh on you
if I can ask you to
till
please
the end
conclude.
of your days, unless you act very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to let the members of the public that have taken time out of their day to be here today know we usually have 10 minutes for public comment. We have a tremendous amount of public speaker cards. We can do certainly some more than that, but where I will be reading everybody's name in, and as we've done quite often, so that people can see how many folks are here and feel that as well. You may want to have everybody come forward in mass as well at some point with some representatives chosen, but until that point, I'm just going to be going in order of the cards that are here. Roberto Flores is the next speaker, and then Charity Lou Colbert, and then Sarah Coffey. If I can ask the three of them to please line up, and then we can make sure we get as many people in as possible. You have 2 minutes each, but you don't have to use 2 minutes each. It's 10 minutes overall. Please go ahead.
Good morning, City Council. Good morning, everybody. I live in South Pasadena. I come to you as a concerned resident. I work as an adjunct professor at Cal State LA as well as Pacific Oaks. I guess my main identity is a participant in the Eastside Cafe in Northeast El Sereno. I come to you, of course, on behalf of the Saving the South Central Farm. I take my classes there. I take my classes there because the South Central Farm is a model of those spaces that are addressing the many environmental and social ills facing our society. This is a live model of participatory democracy and self-sustenance. It is a green space, an educational space, a children's safe space, a family space built by the community, and it also builds community. I come to you because it embodies all the promises, all the campaign goals that you projected during your campaign. This is an opportunity by keeping the South Central Farm, by protecting it, saving it, expanding it. This is an opportunity to work towards those goals and values. But most of all, this is an opportunity for you to keep your promise. Regardless of what you do, we, supporters of South Central Farm, will continue to develop these types of safe family, cultural spaces, and will continue demanding that you join us as our representatives in doing the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Charity Locke Colbert.
Good morning, Mr. President Garcetti and fellow City Council members. My name is Ms. Charity Love Colbert, and I'm here on behalf of the South Central Farmers. I was a volunteer for the Farmers Market in Santa Monica since 2001, and I am appalled that you are allowing these families to be evicted from the land that is good for the ecosystem, the air, and the trees and the fruit are healthier than I hear that there is a proposed warehouse. Please stop this eviction. I appreciate you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Sarah Coffey is next. Sarah Coffey, and then Alberto Tlatoa, and Araceli Tlatoa, and Domitila Palestino is next, please.
My name is Sarah Coffey. I'm a supporter of the South Central Farm. And I have come here today to demand that the City Council intervene using eminent domain to keep the farm from being evicted. The eviction date is set for Monday. The community is definitely going to be there. If the developer refuses to accept the Trust for Public Lands and the city's offer, he's going to have to come through the community to get the farm. So I would like to say to Jan Perry, who is not here, she's letting down her district. And we are all looking at her and what she's going to do in this situation, and we are not going to forget what happens. National media is starting to take an interest in this issue. This is an issue that is a nationwide interest, and so I think it is of special interest for the City Council to take decisive action.
Thank you. Alberto Tlatoa.
Good morning, City Council. My name is Araceli Tlatoa, and I am a middle school student, and I am a farmer of the South Central Farmer. We received an eviction notice on Wednesday. We do not want no one to take our farm away. This place is where all the kids feel safe. Our parents show us how to plant and grow food. It's a beautiful place to be. We ask the City Council to help save the farm. All of the city councils are responsible to save the garden. Los Angeles is where our city and and you are the person who can help us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Teresa Vaquero. I'm one of the youngest farmers at the South Central Farm. I came here last week
I'm
to
sorry,
tell
could you give us your name one more time?
Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you.
I came here last week to tell you that you need to save our farm, but we are here we were told to get out of the farm. What are you going to do for us? I'm going to tell you one more time. I'm not going anywhere, and all the farmers are staying, and you need to do something right to save our farm. Thank you.
We've gone about 3 minutes over our 10 minutes. If there's no objection, colleagues, given the volume of cards, I would extend for 10 more minutes. There's no objection? Okay. Yeah, Mr. Labange?
I move your request.
Okay.
You get a second on that, but could you have the city attorney afterwards just explain what the status is? Check with your office. I just want to hear an update, because someone mentioned our involvement in it. I want an update on it, so thank you.
Under the rules of, the city attorney may have to opine. I think we can give private conversation, but under the state laws, we're not allowed to directly respond more than, and I know this sounds crazy, it's not a law we passed, it's the state, more than 20 words. We've just actually had that clarified today, given some of the comments, so.
It's okay, you give it to me in 15.
Okay, great, thank you. So whatever order, or Leslie Velasquez is next, Claudia Velasquez, Miguel de la Torre. And I'm going to have to cut off about 7 minutes in because we have some speaker cards on different matters that are before us too, just to give folks an idea of how much time we have on this issue. Please.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Claudia Velázquez. Solamente vengo a pedirles, por favor, que nos ayuden a salvar el jardín. No es justo que nos dejen a 350 familias fuera sin un lugar saludable y sin un lugar seguro para nuestros hijos. Que por favor tomen una acción inmediata ya que estamos en un momento muy crítico. Gracias.
Good morning, my name is Claudia Velasquez. I'm here to ask you to please help us save the garden. It's not fair to kick 350 families out from a place that's healthy, that's safe for our children. We're asking you to please support so we can continue farming that land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Domitila Palestino. Yo vengo a pedirles, por favor, que nos ayuden a salvar el Jardín Sur Centro de Los Ángeles. Es un jardín donde van las familias a distraerse con sus niños, un jardín seguro. Y ayúdenos, por favor, estamos en un momento crítico, necesitamos ayuda de ustedes, por favor, se lo agradecemos. Gracias.
My name is Domitila Palestino. I'm here representing the Garden of South Central Los Angeles. We're families that are there. We want to ask for your support. We're farming that land. This is a very safe place, and this is a very critical moment at this stage. We're asking for your help, please.
Sí, mi nombre es Joaquín Paredes.
¿Cuál es tu nombre? ¿Su nombre? ¿Otra vez?
Joaquín Paredes.
Gracias.
Quería pedirle que por favor nos ayuden a saberse ese pedacito para nuestros viejitos, que ahí, para que recuerden ellos que recuerden lo de sus raíces. Por favor.
My name is Joaquin Paredes, and I'm here to ask you to please help us save this farm. It's for the elderly people. They think back of their roots and where they came from, and please, we're asking for your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Samuel Chávez. Señores concejales, estamos aquí para pedirles que nos dejen ahí en el terreno, porque ese terreno es un fruto que para nuestra niñez. Por eso les pedimos que tomen cartas en el asunto y nos ayuden. Gracias.
Good morning, my name is Samuel Chavez. I'm here to ask you to please help us keep the land. It's good for our children, so please take charge, and we're asking for your help. Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Susana Tlatelpa. Le venimos a pedir que nos ayuden a salvar el jardín, porque ahí es para los niños que llegan ahí a disfrutar y es muy sano. Gracias.
My name is Susana Platelpa. I'm here to ask you to please help us save our garden. It's a very safe place for the children where they come and enjoy themselves at that place. Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Miguel Galeno y venimos a que nos ayuden a conservar el jardín, ya que es un lugar limpio y productivo, que ahí sembramos verduras para nuestro alimento. Queremos que nos ayuden. Gracias.
Good morning. My name is Miguel Galendo. We want to ask you to please help us save the garden. It's a clean, productive place. We plant vegetables there, and they're very nutritional, and we are asking for your help. Thank you.
Good morning, City Council members. My name is Alberto Clatoa, currently a Los Angeles College student and a South Central farmer. I have been coming here for about 2 years, preaching to you about this magnificent environment that exists in South Central. South Central already has the deficit of lacking of a lot of stuff, safe environments, green space, better food. We are the solution. I have heard many problems from this city council being brought up by many of the other council members, and they know that we are the root. If we have our youth in positive environments, they're not going to go to drugs, they're not going to go to criminal activity. Why? Because we have a project that is run by the people, for the people. And we are here once again to ask you to take immediate action. We cannot allow 350 families to be evicted. This is a positive environment that is very beneficial for the community. It provides safety, fresh fruits, and a lot of things that the city needs. This environment should be emulated instead of being wanted to destroy. We are here standing as a community united because we want to preserve this positive environment. We demand that our rights be heard. We are citizens, and we have the right to food security, safe environment, and green space. Y aquí estamos y no nos vamos.
Thank you for the testimony. I'd like to read the other names I have on the South Central Farmers, and if folks would like to take 2 more minutes, but as I said, we're going to try to get to a few other speakers that are on here for other items. But the other, we'll pause the timer for a second. Miguel de la Torre, John Parker, Chris Ford, Bahar Barazadigan, An Lee, Armoni Pie, Remedios Zapata, Jay Huggins, Sun Young Young, Carmen Garcia, Mike Van Garter, Eric Carlini, Leslie Radford, and Kamiko R. Hubbard. Is there anybody else from that group who'd like to make a quick comment? Okay, why don't you jump up and we'll...
My name is Javis Huggins. Mr. Parks, Mr. Garcetti, all the councilmen and women, I implore you to listen for a moment. As you can see, this is a vital cause to help save the South Central Farm. It's more than just about the fruits and the vegetation. This fertile land, you're looking at the vegetation, looking at the fruits of the labor of the people with the flowers, and we blossomed from the soil for 13 years, and it's incredible and an effort that these people put together for such a long time, and a sacred piece of land that should be emulated. It should be done in more cities. You're talking about the biggest urban farm in the nation, and we want to destroy it, make it into a warehouse. And it's quite unfortunate because nothing can grow from concrete, and this must be saved, you know, through all costs and compassion and love. I implore you guys to listen and please, you know, make the right decision if you can help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Omar, and I'm one of the supporters of the South Central Farms. As you all heard, those are all the farmers that came up here, asked for requests.
You don't have to speak as close. It actually picks up. You're from up there. Don't worry. Thanks.
As you see, as the farmers came up here, asked for a request for help as far as the farmers are getting evicted this week, I surely want to acknowledge you that evicting a place such as the South Central Farms isn't the right way to offer our communities of Los Angeles, because for one, the South Central Farms represents a very clear, bright possibility for all people of the community of Los Angeles. And for you or to anyone that is involved in this situation, you have to think twice about this, because for one, the South Central Farms is a very, very fertile, very, very good place. It's a bright place for all kids, for all people that wants a place clear, you know, wants a place to grow food, to grow food, to know the ways of growing food, as well as taking care of each other as a community.
Thank you. If I can ask you to conclude, just so we can do the other speakers. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Conclude. Thank you. There's two other names that I neglected. We're going to have to go to the speakers on other issues. I'm sorry, just we're already over, unless there's a motion to do so. But Daisy Tenanson and Joe, excuse me if I mispronounced, Lane, also were here on this issue. I'd like to ask Felicia Ford on the Woodland Memorial Park Foundation to come forward, Sean Michaels and Donna Doherty at this time.
Hello, my name is Daisy Tonantzin. I'm a community organizer for the Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust. Our job is to build community gardens and parks throughout the city, working with the residents of those communities. I don't come to you necessarily today as an organizer, but I come to you as a city resident, a resident of this city, a parent, and also an advocate for a healthy environment.
I'm sorry, Daisy. We have to go to the other speakers, and I read that name into the record.
I just want to say that it's not even a comment of what we're going to do to save the South Central Farm, but it's a question.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Daisy. I appreciate it. Felicia Ford, could I come forward?
Good morning. Felicia Ford, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Sure.
I know that when I come here, the agenda item pertaining to the cemetery is not under what you would say is your district, and I really don't come here to make a plea. I come here to inform you and to inform the public of what is actually going on with the death care abuse in the city of Los Angeles. It is unfortunate that Mr. Glenn Wong, who is the owner of Woodlawn Cemetery and Evergreen Cemetery, which is in Los Angeles, he was found for criminal wrongdoing of egregious misconduct, such as digging up our loved ones, throwing them in the trash can, cooking them in makeshift barrels. In addition, having mortuaries come back and get the expensive caskets that we buried our loved ones in, returning them back to the mortuary. Many of the remains never went into the ground. What is disturbing to me is that Mr. Wong still has those keys, and he was supposed to relinquish that cemetery in 2001, December, and he is still owner of that cemetery. If we had have known Mr. Wong would do this and other cemetery owners and desecrate our family members, we would have bought land ourselves and made their own safe resting place, a green garden of peace. I am just a little bit disappointed because the government took part in this, and it's disturbing that he is still the owner of this cemetery, and the probation period is up with regards to the criminal matter. I will tell you, I'm going to be moving on a lot of things. I've seen a lot of death certificates pertaining to the family members, and I've helped them with their claim forms. The attorneys took $16.5 million. I was able to bring them back to the table through the honorable judge, who allowed me to speak at 120 appearances on behalf of thousands of family members. In closing, they have approved. Thank you. They have approved a lot of the claims, but the issue is we want ownership of this cemetery.
Thank you, Felicia. Okay. Sean Michaels? Is Sean Michaels here? I think he's coming from the back. If folks would allow him to come through. We're going to have 1 minute of conclusion from all the folks. It's, please go ahead.
Good morning, Councilman. I came to speak also to Mr. Tom LaBonge. Is he here?
It's Mr. LaBonge in chambers. He's right there.
Great. Okay. I actually am a resident for 12 years at the Hollywood Regis Apartments, 7320 Hawthorne Avenue, District Number 4. We request that the signed enclosed documents here be reviewed. We protest that we've been given a 30-day notice to vacate the premises due to condominium conversion, and request that you enforce the owners at Soros Regis Group It's located at 1825 Bardeen Avenue, Irvine, California. Michael J. Winter is the vice president. To comply with the conditions of approval, vesting tentative track number 62455, the tenants of this 99-unit building are entitled to receive full compensation of relocation fees that are being denied us and are merely being shoved out of our homes. This violates Municipal Code Section 47.06. In addition, Saris Regis Group recorded a covenant and agreement binding provided relocation assistance in a manner consistent with Section 12.95.2G of the Los Angeles Municipal Code pertaining to residential subsidies for all tenants. We request that the condominium conversion tract map number 62455 be blocked for tenants to receive full restitution for everything, including relocation fees and moving costs. As voting citizens, we thank you for taking this matter as seriously as we do, and we thank you for all of your assistance in the positive resolution for all of the tenants involved. Most sincerely, the residents of the Hollywood Regis Apartments. Here is the long list of tenants that we are being evicted and they are also being displaced at this time, and a listing for Mr. Labange of the signed affidavits, and even conditions of approval that have not been met and violated. And our rights, yours, sir.
Thank you very much, and I know Mr. Labange will take that. We
Thank you
appreciate your
very much.
testimony. Donna Doherty?
Good morning, President Garcetti and fellow council members. I'm here again for I don't know how many times, but I do want everybody to know in this group of people here in this room right now and everybody out there in the community, I'm here to talk to you about Griffith Observatory. We are up to $93 million and going of our money, of our city money. And there has never been, there is not right at this moment any alternative design for the front 4 doors. 12 steps are there. This is not right. We need to make that 4-door entrance accessible. At this moment, I have given you a picture before from the Recreation and Parks Department, and they say that there will be a sign on the front lawn to tell everybody that if they have a child in a stroller, if they're disabled, they need to go to the end of a wing, around the backside, in one door. And I guess I would ask the same that the other person asked, that maybe everybody listen to this. This is really important. We need your help. And we need it on the agenda, et cetera. But you have to go all the way to the backside to one door, come the whole length of the wing on the inside to get to the front 4 doors on the inside before you can turn to go into the planetarium. We're spending this fortune and we're not giving the right out view to the rest of the world. What are we that we would block everybody? I heard all of you with a great compassion for animals when you were talking to the new man who's going to take care of our animal centers. Can we transfer some of that compassion to our human beings, not only in Los Angeles, but from all over this world that come to see us? Universal design is what we need. And remember, the acronym is SUPER, Shared Use Pathways for Equal Rights. Please
Thank you very
help
much,
us.
Ms. Doherty.
Thank you so much.
One final speaker, as I know a lot of folks did not get to speak who came here today on the South Central Farm, Delia Alamein, for 1 minute, and that'll be our final speaker for public comment. Is Alamein. Please.
We have come to you from the South Central Farms to give you a petition on behalf of the concerned citizens and the community of Los Angeles. I noticed that the mayor is not here. But one thing that is very clear to us is that at the time that the mayor is talking of the greening of LA, it is highly contradictory for us to witness a situation where the city hall is remaining quiet while the largest urban farm in the United States is about to be bulldozed. An eviction notice has been served on the farmers while this case is still pending in the court. The majority of the people farming this land are grandmothers, single mothers. These children, they are looking up to you to stop the process of the eviction of these farmers from this land. We intend to use all the constitutional processes available to us to make sure that this process does not take place. But we are asking the city council, we are asking Mayor Vera Gosa and all the city council members to stand on the side of the people today, to stand on the side of the farmers, and to stand on the side of history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate everybody's testimony this morning. If I can thank you all very much for your testimony today. This closes public comment, and I just wanted to reiterate for the record, Ms. Perry is at an AQMD meeting, which is scheduled each Friday, every other Friday, which is why Councilmember Perry is not here today, though her staff is, and certainly heard all of public testimony, and also has raised the mayor was not here. That is not customary in City Council, but we appreciate the testimony that everybody gave today on these items and others. If we can please run through the agenda now, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, before beginning the regular agenda, there is an item, item number 17. Councilmember Reyes requesting that matter to be continued a week, and that would be March 10th. That is a council recess day. However, a motion has been introduced to delete that from the recess schedule.
Excuse me, to do what for the recess schedule?
I'm sorry. On
Motion
item
on
number 17, there's a request to continue it for 1 week.
For 1 week, okay. Is there any objection, council members, to continuing item 17 1 week? If not, so ordered. Okay.
Next items are items for which, items noticed for public hearings. Items 1 and 2 are street lighting district ordinances.
Okay. Anybody wishing to be heard on item 1 or 2? If not, we'll open and close the public comment. Any council members wishing to call those special? If not, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those items are approved. Will those stay open, or are those final approvals?
No, those are the final.
Okay, those are approved. Next items?
Next items are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 3 through 20. Item number 17 has already been acted on. It's been continued. And item number 5, a committee report has been submitted.
Okay. Colleagues, 3 through 20, any specials? Ms. Gruhl.
Sorry, I apologize up front. I have a busy day today. 7, 16, and 20.
7, 16, and 20, Ms. Gruhl. Okay, other specials, Mr. Parks?
8 and 13.
8 and 13, Mr. Weezer?
4 and 6.
4 and 6. I'll call 10 and 12. So we have 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 13, 16, and 20. That's what I have here. Any other specials, colleagues? If not, please prepare the roll on the balance and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay. Next items?
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, 21 through 48. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay. Colleagues, any specials on those items? 21 through 48.
And, Mr. President, there are cards on 28, 29, and 31.
Okay, 28, 29, and 31. We will call special for cards. Mr. Parks?
37.
37. Any other specials, colleagues? See if there's any other cards here. Okay, and then others, if we can please prepare the roll on the balance and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next item on the supplemental agenda, on the continuation agenda is item number 49, and that's an item for which public hearing has been held.
Okay, item 49. Anybody wishing to call that special? Ms. Gruhl? Okay, 49. Ms. Gruhl calls special. Okay. Why don't we have a special meeting agenda as well, or is it supplemental?
Yes, we do, Mr. President.
Okay, why don't we recess the regular meeting and please call the roll for the special meeting?
Cardenas, Gruhl, Han, Weezer, Labange, Padilla, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 13 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, we have a quorum on the special meeting. Items 1 and 2. Before anybody wishing to call those special?
Well, the first item is an item for which public hearing has been held.
Okay. If nobody wishes to be heard on item 1, let's prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That's approved. Number 2.
Item number 2 is an item for which public hearing has not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. Public safety waived this matter.
Okay. We will open and close public comment. Seeing nobody wishing to be heard from the public. Any members wishing to call this special? No members wishing to call this special, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved forthwith, Ms. Weiss? Okay. If we can return back to the regular meeting. And we have before us item 4 first, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. That was called special by, who called for special? Mr. Weezer?
Yes,
Okay,
thank
Mr.
you.
Weezer, item 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention a recent victory we got with working with our state legislature, where we received $2.7 million to renovate the pool at Roosevelt High School. It's interesting to me because as a school board member, I represented that area. And when I started representing the area in Boyle Heights and covered Roosevelt High School, I looked at our pool and saw in the terrible conditions this pool was in, and I went straight to our administrators at the school district and said, why would we allow our pool to be in such bad condition? Why would we allow glass panels to be broken while kids go into the swimming pool to swim in those dangerous conditions? I come to find out that the pool was actually owned by Parks and Rec, and it was a city responsibility. I did what I could when I was on the Board of Education, and I found $400,000 to transfer over to the city to fix the pool panels, to make sure that the kids were no longer in danger when they go out to swim at the high school swimming pool. And now I'm here announcing the grant received from the state legislature, thanks to the hard work of Speaker of the Assembly, Fabian Nunez, who made sure we received these funds. But I rise to not only thank the legislature, but also to bring to our attention the need that we have, not only at Roosevelt High School, but throughout the city, to make sure that we do more for our public swimming pools. For many of these kids from low-income areas, our public swimming pools that the Parks and Rec provides are their only means to swimming, are sometimes their only place where they have adequate place to exercise. And of the 59 pools citywide, 8 of them are closed due to failure, and many more are near failure. Over 63% of the pools in the city are over 40 years old, and approximately 60% of the pools that are open received a D or F rating. Roosevelt High School has a D rating. Hopefully, through the funds that we now found through this, it would go to a satisfactory level. So thank you for your attention, colleagues and public. I just simply wanted to bring to our attention the desperate need situation we're in to get more funding and more support for our local public schools so our kids have a place to go. And here I want to thank the state legislatures, particularly Fabian Nunez, for helping us get these $2.7 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer. Other members wishing to be heard on this? If not, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And that is approved. Item 6, please.
And that was called special by Councilmember Weezer.
Okay, Mr. Weezer, number 6.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to rise as again, something that I care deeply about, coming again from the school district. And here we have our state legislative program, and we're going to support legislation to enhance the quality preschool for all 4-year-olds, and that the city agencies, such as the Commission for Children, Youth, and Their Families, work with a broad spectrum of organizations to promote preschool programs. And we all know how important preschool is for our students. But I wanted to raise again, as the city talks more and more about getting involved in public education and how this city can better work with our school district to support student achievement for our children, this is one area that is an easy way for the city and the school district to work together. Thanks to the First 5 LA, we've made, they're making about a $600 million investment in universal preschool, and LAUSD is partnering with them to provide those facilities. But we all know how overcrowded many of the facilities in the school district are. The city has an opportunity here not only to provide and support legislation that would support preschool, but we should also be looking at ways for the city to provide those facilities, whether it's our parks or other unused facilities throughout the city, to provide this preschool for these children. I know in my area at Evergreen Park there are plans being made in an area that has been unused to provide a facility for preschool in that area. We should continue to look and find ways to get more creative. There was a study done by the RAND Corporation that shown that in the LA County each year, if we bring universal preschool to all children who qualify, almost 5,000 fewer children will be retained to repeat a grade. Almost 3,000 fewer children will be using special education, and more than 3,000 fewer high school dropouts. and more than 2,000 fewer children with will have juvenile court filings. Again, I think this is a great direction, but instead of only supporting legislation in Sacramento, let's look here locally on how we could support more facilities for preschool programs and work with First Five to make that possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huizar. Anybody else wishing to be heard on this? Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to stand and support my colleague on this effort. You know, colleagues, we're at a point where we have the opportunity to look at the social policy and how it impacts these opportunities and creates opportunities. We also have the challenge to look at how we physically create these connections to enhance these policies. How we combine housing with schools is a pivotal point that I think could address many of the pressures that we're going through. Just the other week, Councilmember Hahn was talking about their challenge working with the school district and building a facility at the old naval site. I have a challenge in Taylor Yard. And I'm thinking, and I was sharing these thoughts with the Councilmember Hahn, is why aren't we looking at policies that allows us to build housing near schools, but the housing could be for the teachers. Provide affordable housing for teachers, given what they make. I think at the low end, around the low 30s up to the 40s and 45,000. That's considered in this city today low income. That's a low income individual. They can't afford the $300,000, $400,000 homes that are in our neighborhoods now. So I share these thoughts with you in support of Councilman Huizar in looking at these policy issues. But I really think this body should start thinking about the bigger picture and how we connect these social policy issues with the physical elements and how we create environments that is conducive to a stronger learning environment, accountability, strengthening relations with parents and students, parents and teachers, and we can do that. But right now the school district is working really hard to meet its deadlines. I take nothing away from them. I think they've been doing a great job of meeting those deadlines. But I think there's time now for us to start asking, when are we going to slow down? When can we pause to capture these opportunities? And it's just an environment that we need to really focus on and assess our own districts and say, where do these opportunities lie? All the low-hanging fruit is gone. All the big parcels are gone. They still have a mandate to build schools. Are they going to take down homes? Are they going to take down commercial areas? How are they going to build these schools? This will be hitting us, and methodically we should be thinking about those challenges. So thank you, Councilman Huizar, for bringing up this issue. It's a very important one, but I want to be opportunistic in bringing together the bigger picture as a body, as an institution, as the council. When do we start addressing these very real questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gruhl is next, to be followed by Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you. I just want to also stand up in support of this legislative recommendation. I think, Jose, you're bringing this to our attention, is that the city can play a role, though we don't often pay for the operation of these. The city can help, whether it be building the facilities, capital dollars, or expediting, which we're trying with our child care policy to do some of that, which says we need to look at them as a unique I guess, opportunity to help create affordable quality child care, which is difficult to do, to have it affordable and a quality program oftentimes. And so I think that if we can work much more closely with the Prop 5 Commission and LA Up and others to make sure that we are not only not a problem, but actually help them in doing that. So just want to acknowledge you and the importance, and that there are a lot of us here on the council that agree with you and support your efforts on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gruhl. Our last speaker is Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, Mr. President, thanks for recognizing me. I want to thank my colleague, Jose Huizar, for putting this visibly in front of us rather than just on consent. It gives us an opportunity to actually talk about it. Frankly, the United States of America is in trouble with its future. Part of the trouble is our young people are not getting the supports they need to be competitive in the new wired world. You know, we have a fiber loop around the planet, and young people all over the planet have opportunities that they didn't have before. That's a good thing. But I don't want our young people to be at a competitive disadvantage. The sooner we give young people opportunities, the sooner we give them resources, the sooner we give them support, the more successful we're going to be. I thought LA's, the state initiative we all passed a while back, that from 5-year-olds on there would be money, and Rob Reiner put together an initiative, was a huge step in giving us the competitive edge that we should continue to have. I think what you're saying here is a further example of it. And frankly, not related to this, but also in the larger scope of things, there'll be another initiative on the ballot shortly that is talking about preschool. It's talking about taxing the super rich, another point of their $1 million or more that would go directly into a fund that would help young people. Frankly, it isn't on the agenda today, but I support that as well. It's time that we don't give tax cuts to the rich, but take that money and put it in investing in the future, which is our young people. And I want to thank you, Jose, for bringing this to us today.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Seeing nobody else wishing to be heard, let's prepare the roll on this item and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 7, called special by Councilmember Gruhl.
Ms. Gruhl, item number 7.
Thank you, colleagues, and thank you to Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Garcetti and others, Ms. Hahn, who was there that morning when we took a stand on Mercury Insurance. And in 1988, California voters wanted to moderate constraints on insurance rates and practices when they passed Proposition 103. It provides an opportunity for us to look at that automobile insurance rates shall be determined primarily by a driver's safety record and mileage driven. They should not be based on their zip code. Since the passage of 103 more than 17 years ago, insurance companies like Mercury Insurance have used their legal might and influence to actually fight it. And they've continued to charge motorists based on where they live, not on how they drive. And we've heard numerous examples, including Ms. Hahn's family, where that occurred in Los Angeles. According to some of those insurance companies, people believe that individuals who are living in South Los Angeles should pay more than the same individual's driving record in Westwood, simply because of where they live. A recent study by Consumers Union found that insurance companies require good drivers living in California's predominantly African American and Latino zip codes pay substantially more for insurance than good drivers in other communities. The report found that female drivers in predominantly Latino and African American communities pay 13% and 16% more, respectively, than a female driver in an identical driving record in another area in Los Angeles. This practice, I believe, has been racist and unfair and penalizes drivers with good driving records. Last year, John Garamendi, our insurance commissioner, announced new rules to further reduce the use of zip codes to determine auto insurance premiums, and finally and fully implement the spirit of Proposition 103. We introduced this motion to support John Garamendi's efforts to enhance and enforce Proposition 103 and to compel those auto insurance companies to base their insurance rates on an individual's driving record, again, and not on their zip code. We had another item on the agenda today that was received and filed that was going to go against the proposition that had been proposed for a ballot here in the state of California that would have rolled back the many accomplishments that Proposition 103 was able to achieve in its adoption more than 17 years ago. Thank goodness that initiative was pulled off the ballot. And what we want to make sure is that we go on record supporting the efforts of our Insurance Commissioner, John Garamendi, to enforce Proposition 103 and to ensure that people are paying their insurance rates based on their driving record and not where they live. So I would ask that we have a unanimous vote today by this City Council to send a message that we stand in enforcing the law and enforcing the will of the people that was passed over 17 years ago. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Gruhl. Ms. Hahn, to be followed by Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you. Well, I was happy to sign on to this resolution so that we as the City of Los Angeles can weigh in and give support to our current Insurance Commissioner, John Garamendi, to once again take the will of the people and really mandate that these insurance companies quit trying to charge people insurance rates based on where they live. I find it interesting. I get a personal satisfaction out of it, but the people must think, government really does move slowly. My dad fought this fight over 20 years ago when he realized that it was discriminatory, that people in South Central Los Angeles were paying higher insurance rates, not based on their driving record, but just based on where they lived. It's racist, it's discriminatory. We grew up in South Central Los Angeles. My mom, who had a perfect driving record, we found out that she was being charged more for her annual insurance premium than someone in Orange County who had a drunk driving conviction on their record. That's crazy. And the people spoke. They were angry about that. We passed Proposition 103, which we really thought would sort of solve the problem. The problem is we gave the insurance companies a little loophole. We told them they had to look at driving record, miles driven, and driving experience first and foremost. But we also told them, secondly, they could look at zip codes if they wanted to factor in that when they charged people. Well, they took that as being their primary reason for how they gave people their insurance rates. So we're going to support our insurance commissioner, John Garamendi. He's going to try to revisit that and take that part out. That in fact, you ought to be looked at by your driving record, your driving experience, the miles driven, but where you live should not be a factor in your insurance rates. Sometimes what happens, these are the poorest people who are charged rates that they can least afford. We want everybody to have insurance. We want everybody to drive safely, but what we're doing is factoring in one more reason why people are going to suffer a hardship just because of where they live. So I hope we have a unanimous vote on this today and send a message loud and clear. The City of Los Angeles wants to stop, again, this idea of redlining, of charging people higher rates because of where they live in our city. It's wrong, and it ought to be stopped again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn, Mr. Rosendahl, and then Mr. Wesson.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's always a pleasure to listen to Councilwoman Hahn and Councilwoman Gruhl speak on an issue that matters so much. In 1988, I moderated the debate on Proposition 103. There were 5 propositions on the ballot, you might remember, and Harvey Rosenfield represented the people. And the people spoke and approved Proposition 103, because we the people realize that we're being gouged and ripped off every day by all kinds of groups. The good news about this is when Wendy Gruhl and I and Eric Garcetti stood on the steps of City Hall and Janice Hahn, the 4 of us stood there, we talked about Mercury Insurance. And we said, no way, Mercury, would we allow you to do this kind of loophole like Janice Hahn just said and make it on zip codes rather than on driving record. They got the message and they dropped going forward with an initiative that they were going to do. So now our Secretary of Insurance, Garamendi, is just going to make it a law, and it's going to be on record rather than on one zip code. So I applaud Mercury for listening to us and to others throughout the state, and I certainly thank Harvey Rosenfield and the Consumer Taxpayers Group that has put leadership on this. Please, let's all unanimously support this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Wesson.
Mr. President and members, I was proud to sit in committee when we first heard this issue, and really glad to hear my distinguished colleagues speak up in support of John Garamendi on this issue. I just wanted to piggyback just a little bit on what Councilmember Hahn said. Her dad, for years, fought this fight, and he passed it on to his assistant chief deputy at the time, a fellow by the name of Nate Holden, who sat around this horseshoe. And when Nate Holden was in the state senate in the late 70s, he fought to change these laws also. This is a continuing struggle. I don't know, I don't understand what it's going to take for the will of the people to be heard. But individuals truly need to be rated or charged based on their driving record. It only makes sense. And to make individuals who are, let's say, economically depressed or live in economically depressed areas to pay more when they're excellent drivers, it's just flat out wrong. So I'm proud to stand up and to urge all of us to move forward and give John Garamendi a helping hand on this issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wesson. Nobody else wishing to be heard on this? Let's please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That item is approved. Thank you. Next item is number 8.
Item number 8, called special by Councilmember Parks.
8 from the 8th District.
That's right, 8 and 8. Thank you, Mr. President. I am standing in support of this resolution that we went forward on, and it's kind of odd how things come to your attention. I was attending a Golden State Hall of Fame boxing event, and several of the ex-champions there came forward with a concern, and the concern is that one of the past heroes in the boxing profession, Jack Johnson, had been what they thought unfairly treated during his career. In fact, treated so badly that it changed the direction of his career, and in many instances did not give him the acclaim that he probably was warranted. But many of you may recall the story that Jack Johnson, born in 1878, was the first black heavyweight champion of the world. And at that time, even against the mores of the country, he was one of the first fighters to fight in integrated fights throughout this country, and later win the champion, while what was unheard of at the time, fighting against a white champion. After that success, he was pursued by the federal government, later convicted for his violation of the Mann Act in 1913, and he fled to Canada, where he then proceeded to continue his career before returning to the United States, where he ended up serving 1 year in Leavenworth, Kansas prison for the Mann Act violation. What was interesting, he was, although he did not serve in the military, he was very supportive and in fact was used as part of the campaign in the military to promote selling of war bonds so that it could support the World War II. He was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1954. There is a resolution by Congressman King that basically urges the President of the United States to pardon posthumously Mr. Jack Johnson. And the specific language of the resolution goes to the fact that he was an African-American athlete and participated and succeeded in racially integrated professional sports in the United States. He was one of the first that did that. He was wronged by racially motivated conviction prompted by his success in the boxing ring and his relationships with white women. The criminal conviction unjustly ruined his career and destroyed his reputation. They're asking in that resolution that the President of the United States should grant the posthumously pardon of John Arthur Jack Johnson and expunge from the annal of American criminal justice a racially motivated abuse of the prosecutorial authority of the federal government. And so this motion is asking to right a wrong that's now well over close to 100 years old. and I'm appreciative of Mr. Wesson seconding this at the time it went through, but I'd ask that we give a unanimous vote and certainly support something that rights a long-term wrong in this country.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Wesson, followed by Mr. Labange.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I too rise to support this House resolution. You know, this country is the greatest country on the planet, but we still have a long way to go. And when you reflect back just 70 plus 80 years, that an individual who was a human being just like everybody else was discriminated against because of the color of his skin. He was one of the greatest boxers of all times, and one of the things that upset the establishment the most is that they couldn't whoop him. So they tried to do everything that they can, which led to his conviction just because he was flamboyant and had a flair, and he was a big, strong guy, and he dated and married a white woman. So I think that we all, recognizing that we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go, should support this unanimously and send a message to Washington that it's time for them to right a wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wesson. Mr. Labange.
Mr. Wesson, Mr. Parks, I join, as all of us will join with you in supporting this about Jack Johnson. The ESPN Sports Century had a tremendous documentary on this, and all of us should try to find it and watch it to look at a very past that now could be made right, albeit so many years behind. Jack Johnson was a champion, and it should reflect that. Thank you. Call to support this item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange, and thank you for bringing this item to our attention. If there's nobody else wishing to be heard, please open the roll on the item. Please close the roll, and please tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Let's hold 10 on the desk and take up item 12 next, please.
I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl. Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, and I know Mr. Wesson has already emerged as a local leader on this, and no doubt will be as a national leader, but colleagues, this is like Groundhog's Day. Here we are again, right after passing the consolidated plan, looking at proposed budget cuts of our community development block grant, and this comes appropriately just before many of us to travel to Washington, D.C. at the National League of Cities Conference, where this was the #1 priority for every city and local government in the United States of America last year. 95% of the members of Congress took meetings with their local elected officials just like us last year about this time to oppose the Bush administration's proposed cuts last time to our community development block grant. To put in perspective, they're asking here for a cut of $4 billion out of a the block grant is $4 billion out of $2.7 trillion budget. So the targeted anti-poverty monies that is devolved to localities, which Republicans and Democrats alike say is a good thing, local control, they're proposing cutting from that $4 billion all the way down to $3.1 billion. This is a 25% cut, and it cannot stand. We must have our voices heard. We cannot be silent, and this is exactly what we were told last year, colleagues, that we won a bit of the battle last year, and by winning, that meant less of a reduction and not the elimination. But they said they're going to come back next year, and they're going to try to chip it away. What they can't gain in 1 year, they're going to try to chip away and chip away and chip away at. I will reiterate, this is something that under Johnson was expanded then under President Nixon, expanded under President Ford, expanded under President Carter, expanded by Ronald Reagan, expanded by George Herbert Walker Bush, expanded by Bill Clinton, because there was a consensus in this country that it is right to wage a war on poverty. But what has happened in this country in the last few years that suddenly the only wars we fight are abroad, and we're forgetting the war that we have to fight right here in this country? And Los Angeles embodies the challenges we face because of poverty. And let's make no mistake about the impact that this has on each one of us and on the communities we represent, from the San Fernando Valley to South Los Angeles, from the east side to pockets of the west side and down to the harbor. We must fight this back. We must join together powerfully with our colleagues at other city councils. And if we pass this today, colleagues, we will be in a position once we storm the Hill in March, later this month, in about 1 week time, just over about 10 days, actually, I think is the day that we're going to be lobbying. We will go to the members of Congress, and Republican and Democrat alike, we'll say we are nonpartisans and do not roll back this money, which helps the poor get on their feet. It helps people be able to have the facilities that they need. It helps people to be able to empower their own lives, have saving accounts, get education, all of the things that we say that we believe in as Americans, this embodies. And let's make sure that this war on the poor that is being proposed is beaten back. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Councilmember Rosendahl, followed by Councilmember Reyes.
Madam President, I rise again, and I'm very angry. You know, what has made America great has been the social contract with our government, with our people. We call it a safety net. It's the seniors, it's the Meals on Wheels, it's the preschool, it's the housing, it's the Section 8. This president starts an illegal and immoral war in Iraq, and he spends hundreds of billions of dollars in a war. Then he gives tax cuts to the super rich who don't need a tax cut. In fact, they should be paying more taxes. We're going to end up with a nation of the super rich and the rest of us. The middle class are going to become not the working class, they're going to become like a third world country. We have to stop the insanity in Washington of illegal and immoral wars spending hundreds of billions of dollars. We have to stop in Washington giving the rich tax cuts. We need to renew the social contract with our people. That's what has made America strong in the past, is having a middle class and having support systems for the poor and the elderly and the young. How dare he want to cut those monies to our great cities? Obviously, we're all angry here on the City Council of Los Angeles, and we're all going back next week, and we're going to let our president know when we meet with him that this is absolutely unacceptable behavior. Thank you.
Mr. Reyes.
Colleagues, I'm understanding that we have $26 billion that's working its way through Congress to be used for the conflict in Iraq. $26 billion by September, I believe. Now, this morning we saw our young people here talking about open space, talking about parks, about saving a piece of land that legally we can't touch. Last year and the year before, we had parents, moms with their children, protesting, walking around City Hall, protesting the cutbacks as we were going to take away their child care slots because of the cutbacks of those nonprofits. This year, it will be worse. So again, I just want to echo and reiterate what's already been said by my colleagues. But we need to have those who are listening to this session start writing your Congress members, start getting involved in how we are able to look at exercises of civil disobedience. It's going to take that type of effort to change what's going on today. But in the next few months, as cutbacks continue to occur, as the cold reality of our city budget begins to hit our departments, our social services, this chamber will be full of people who are going to be angry. I hate to say this, but the last time we had this kind of tension in our cities, it erupted in what some call the riot. When you look at what's happening to our youth and our gangs, it is very real. The shootings come out daily in our newscasts. It's all symptomatic of the lack of support, the lack of resources, and it's the social contract that I believe Councilman Rosendahl is speaking of. So I'm hoping those are listening understand that ahead of us will be much harder days in dealing with these very, very tough situations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Ms. Perry is our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And this item today presents a good opportunity for me to make a comment about what we'll be wrangling over next week or discussing as we examine the effects of a reduction in the service cap, reduction of funding at the federal level. I'm the one who has the largest year-round homeless shelter in the city, not necessarily county, but in the city, and the funding has been reduced, and we're at risk of having to close and then flush out over 500 people back into the street. And so I want to make sure that I set the stage for that now, and that I have your ear and I have your attention so that we understand the ramifications of our actions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perry. Please prepare the roll on this.
Excuse me, Mr. President, I
Yep.
understand there needs to be
There is one,
a
sorry, you're right,
technical
amendment.
correction. The fiscal year should be 2007, 2008.
That is correct. Let's make that one change to make sure it reflects the coming year of 2007-08. And with that, can we please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote?
13 ayes.
Thank you. That is approved forthwith, please, to the mayor. Next item.
Next item is item 13, and that was called special by Councilmember Parks.
Mr. Parks, item number 13 is before us.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we have 4 cards. I'd like to have the community comment before making any presentation. If we could just open it up for about 5 or 6 minutes, appreciate it.
Okay, if there's no objection to public comment, why don't we have 5 minutes of public comment? And I'd like to call forward Bruce, I'm sorry, wrong cards. Shaka Satori, Sylvia Davis, as our first 2 speakers.
Greetings. First, I'd like to thank Councilman Parks and all those who have brought this matter to this point. Marcus Mosiah Garvey is arguably the most significant person in African-American history. The legal and illegal tactics utilized by 8 United States government agencies to undermine Marcus Garvey's efforts towards black self-reliance is well documented and has already led to him being pardoned. It's time for this government to completely exonerate this hero, and the city of Los Angeles must step up to do its part. This resolution must be passed, and we're in total support. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here to advocate for Marcus Garvey's exoneration. His record should indicate that he leaves that he was innocent of all accusations and all charges. And the UNIA and the citizens of African descent, we are here that our history will be made accurate and true and proclaim all of our ancestors, historians, and forefathers be recognized for the great legacy that they left us with, so that our children and our children's children will know and celebrate the truth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ngozi Lee and Harold Green are our next 2 speakers.
Yes, greetings. On behalf of the original organization started by the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the Gladstone Holler Southern California Division number 451 of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and the African Communities League, we ask that the City Council approve this resolution so we may gain momentum in our national struggle for the federal exoneration of Marcus Garvey. He has been pardoned by the federal government, but we're asking for his good name to be cleared. His family would like this done, and also the masses of African people would like this done, for he did nothing wrong trying to unite African people worldwide through race first, self-reliance, and nationhood. One God, one aim, one destiny.
Thank you. Mr. Green.
So I'd like to thank the City Council and Councilman Parks for considering this resolution. Marcus Mosiah Garvey, a visionary Afro-Caribbean leader, came to this country in 1916 with the hopes of creating a movement and the aspirations of creating a movement that would alleviate the suffering of black people throughout the world. And for that, he was targeted and persecuted by a maniacal and racist J. Edgar Hoover in much the same way that other great black leaders, such as Martin Luther King, was persecuted. And J. Edgar Hoover's hope, as he would put it, to stop the emergence of a black Messiah. The historical record and recently released FBI files clearly indicate that Marcus Garvey was framed by J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI, and that his record should indeed be exonerated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That closes public comment. Mr. Parks.
This is another issue in which kind of interesting, it came up the same day as Jack Johnson, but again, our efforts to support a community organization that brought this to my attention. I want to say thank you very much. It's taken probably a little longer than you thought to get to this, but I'm pleased that you're here today to express your views. But I think what's important in that in the 8th District, we have the good fortune of having a Marcus Garvey School on Slauson Avenue. But many people are certainly during Black History Month heard about the exploits of Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King and Rosa Parks, but often Marcus Garvey, who was at the forefront on many of these movements, is not often spoken in the same breath. But a person that really started the movement, and as was stated earlier by the community, due to a number of arrests and legal entanglements, he eventually, because of a fraudulent charge of mail fraud, was actually deported from the United States in 1927, never to return. And so Congressman Rangel has moved forward on a resolution, introduced it, resolution number 57, to express the sense of the Congress that the President should grant a pardon to Marcus Garvey to clear his name and affirm his innocence of the crimes for which he was unjustly prosecuted and convicted. And I'd ask that we have a unanimous vote on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks. Mr. Wesson is our next speaker.
You know, I too rise to do a few things, Mr. President, to again thank the community for staying engaged and keeping the dream alive. And I'm proud to join with Councilmember Parks on this issue. And it's really a good thing that this would come up on the same day as the Jack Johnson resolution, because they were both of the same era at a time when it's difficult to be a minority today. It ain't easy being black or brown today. It was real difficult then. And basically, to me, what Marcus Garvey was, he was the precursor to Martin Luther King. And the government feared him because he had this unique ability to bring people together and to organize people. The government back at that time, it worked well for them when people of color were disjointed and not connected. So he was successful in creating a movement that frightened people. And that's one of the reasons why he was deported after 10 years. I really wonder where we would be today if he would have been able to stay here longer. I wonder what he would have accomplished, and I believe that he would have passed the baton to Martin Luther King, and Martin Luther King would have had less things to do. So I urge every member to vote on this House concurrent resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wesson. Anybody else wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing none. And colleagues, we are having a couple problems with the speaker queue, so if you've pressed the button and I haven't called you, please wave or orally let me know. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you very much. That is approved. Congratulations, Mr. Parks and members of the public. Next item, please.
Item number 16, called special by Councilmember Gruhl.
Ms. Gruhl, item 16.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I could have the City Attorney's Office come up to the table. And colleagues, my reason for calling this special today was to make sure that we were on record about what this is and what this isn't on a project that I know came before us not too long ago, I guess it was several months now, but Canyon Hills project. And this is a development agreement. And this is the beginning of the last piece of the city's part of this, which is critically important of our input and participation in that. What this item does today is direct the city attorney to prepare the agreement. We are not being asked to approve it today. The final agreement will come back to the city council for approval after a minimum public review period of 24 days. And I say minimum because this is a very big issue and project and want to make sure we have as much public input. So just a few questions. Laura, right? Laura, yeah, okay. Could you explain kind of what it is? I mean, I talked a little bit about it, but what it is and what will come back to us when it comes to the council, and hold my time.
Sure, no, you're correct. What this action does, it directs the city attorney's office to prepare an ordinance which will authorize the execution of the final development agreement. So once we finalize the ordinance and finalize negotiations with the developer for the development agreement itself, we will then go back to the Director of Planning to get their sign-off on any changes that may have been made to the agreement after the Planning Commission approved it. Once the sign-off is obtained, then we send out the notice, the public notice for the hearing, which will be at least 24 days, and then we schedule it for Plum and City Council, and at that point, then the final development agreement will be heard.
Now, will the public and the development agreement, because you said negotiating with the developer, this has been a very active community that I've supported in our office to be supportive in actually developing that agreement. I would hate for them to see that agreement when it's already been created. And so we do have an opportunity between, as this is being created, the document, for the input of the community and also importantly my office as we do that. Correct?
Absolutely, and although I say final agreement, what I really mean is the agreement that the city attorney's office and the developer has negotiated. We will present that document for public review during that 24-day period. And then at that time, the public will have the chance to review and then comment once it goes back to council. If at that time, council would like to take into account any of the comments made by public and would like additional changes, we can then do that.
Okay. And how, if I do not feel that that 24 days is enough time for the community, my office to review, who grants that period of time greater than the 24 days?
24 days is a minimum. You can notice it out farther if you would like to give additional time.
Okay. I leave that open again for us to consider because I think it will be a fairly extensive document that we will want to include. So, colleagues, I just wanted to make sure, again, we had this all on the record and some of my constituents who are here today who care a lot about this project and know that they'll be part of any document that is finalized, and there'll be a process with that as well. So thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Ms. Gruhl. Anybody else wishing to be heard on this? Seeing none, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 20, called special by Councilmember Gruhl.
Okay, item number 20, Ms. Gruhl.
Sorry, I apologize up front
Do not
today
apologize.
that I had 4
You're doing your work.
I'd like to call up representatives from the Department of Transportation, if I could. John, there you are. And I know, colleagues, before you should all have this packet, lovely diagram of left-hand turn signals that are before us. And it's amazing, since we introduced this motion, and Bill Rosendahl had a motion specifically for his district that we talked about left-hand turn signals, the kinds of comments we've received from people about how frustrating sometimes it is sitting, how dangerous it is for an individual to sit in the middle of an intersection to make a left turn. And I think it really, I call it an adrenaline-inducing sport and an unwanted exercise in patience that we have. And so what we asked the department to do to address, our short-term solutions as well as our long-term solutions in dealing with traffic, how we could increase the number of left-hand turn signals we have in the city of Los Angeles to deal with not only safety, but traffic movement across the city of Los Angeles. And so we asked them to come back. And they have announced plans in the report that we put forward, the department put forward, 450 left-hand turn signals in Los Angeles, 160 intersections that would be implemented over the next 4 years. And it'll help us move, again, as I mentioned, move traffic, reduce congestion, enhance, I think, safety, and even in some instances, I think, helping our quality of life in those areas. And so the total number of left turn signals in the city of Los Angeles will increase from 1,700 that we have today to 2,100 in 4 years. They've also set up a criteria, and I will have just a few questions for John about this, but I'm pleased that the San Fernando Valley will receive 163, about 40% of the left-hand turn signals in this effort. And I think, again, colleagues, we have to look at every creative way we can to get traffic moving and improve safety, and this is a great response. I want to thank the department for coming forward with a report that really does identify it. John, if you could, as we all have this document in front of us, because colleagues have asked, how come I only have a few? How does this relate to the larger? How did you develop this list? What's the criteria you utilize? And how does it relate to existing left-hand turn signals that may already be in those areas, and how you determine that? And hold my last 25 seconds.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Gruhl and members of the City Council. What we've presented here is an explanation of where we put in left turn arrows, how they operate, but we've also set forth a vision of where we're going to install them. The criteria that we use are twofold. One is fulfilling an urgent situation. That would be criteria one. Criteria two would be fulfilling the vision. In fulfilling a urgent situation, we look at delay, we look at a collision pattern of left turns. We look to see if the visibility is adequate. There may be a curve in the roadway which hides approaching vehicles. There may be a need to do so to restore livability in neighborhoods where we may want to meter traffic turning left into a neighborhood. So we have a number of criteria that we use. Most of those projects are built by DOT signal construction personnel, and their ability to build those is about 20 to 30 a year. But we also had an opportunity to fulfill the vision, and when we have another project such as a street lighting project or an ATSAC project where we're already visiting the area and we're already going to be doing some signal construction, we'll build the left turn arrow at that time rather than waiting for the need to become urgent.
And colleagues, again, what we included in your documentation here is one, intersections that currently exist in your council district. So you would have an idea. The left-hand turn arrow projects that are in here, each of the 4 years identified by council district, and then a lovely map with little dots that those of us that are older have to maybe hold farther. But it does, I think, demonstrate in some of the areas you see where, for example, in 8 and 9 council districts where there were very few left-hand turn signals, they're having an increase necessarily because they're dealing with some of those areas that were not, did not include, as well as if you look at CD 15, there is a number in that district as well. So this is our opportunity, I think, again, when we're looking at short-term and long-term efforts, this left-hand turn arrow program is going to make a big difference. And I have to just mention, and I'm not really 1 minute 22 because it kept going, so I had 25 seconds, but I will be done in a minute. As I went with your staff the other day on Moore Park in my district on synchronization. And for those people who don't believe that synchronization makes a difference, and I apologize for the 15 minutes that I maybe caused the synchronization not to work, because what we did is we went from Tujunga and Moore Park to Hazeltine and back, and only hit one light that we had to stop at. And we think that that light, actually they'd done repaving, and so that the indicators were off. We then went back to Moore Park and Tujunga, and they called downtown and they turned off the ATCS system and went to the ATSAC system. We hit 6 signals in that time period. So I think we know that a little bit of difference makes a huge difference in our commute. And so with synchronization and left-hand turn signals, we're going to try to get Los Angeles moving again, along with hopefully a lot of money from the state for our infrastructure here in Los Angeles. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your indulgence.
Chairman Gruhl. Rosendahl is next, followed by Ms. Hahn, Mr. Labange, and then myself.
Yeah, I rise without the anger that I had in the last time I rose, because I want to applaud my colleague Wendy Gruhl and her leadership on the Transportation Committee, which I've now joined. And I want to also applaud our mayor, who very clearly said synchronization and left-hand turn signals are the short-term efforts that will relieve some of the pressure. And I'm just delighted that in the district I'm in, we have 12 in the process right now in the pipeline. There's timetables and schedules being used to work on those signals. And I want to applaud the Department of Transportation for taking it seriously and moving as quickly as you are on the signals in my district, and I know throughout the city. And I challenge our new planning director, when she comes in, that when developers come forward, we want to exactly tie their project into actual traffic mitigation monies that happen simultaneously as they're building their projects, the left-hand turn signals, the widening of the roads, and all these other things. And I know we're going to get that kind of support from Gail Goldberg when she comes on board. But I just want to applaud Wendy for her leadership and the mayor and my colleagues for supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you. Let me ask the question, too, because I know even before we had this comprehensive plan about moving Los Angeles forward in left turn signals, many of us had put in requests already for left turn signals. Are those in the queue, or, you know, we realize this is a long-term project and we got to get all of LA moving, but many of us have seen the need for left turn signals before this and have made the request to the department.
Right.
Where are they in the list? Hold my time.
In fact, most of the left turn arrows we put in are a result of the input we get from the council offices and the constituents who observe conditions every day. For example, in your district, we have 3 personnel assigned to assess the traffic conditions. Those are only 3 pairs of eyes. We depend very much on the citizens to identify situations for us. And throughout the whole city, we receive about 20,000 requests each year for various traffic control devices. So it's a result of that process, through the many eyes throughout the city that are looking at traffic conditions, that we study situations. And we study them, we look at our criteria, and then if we authorize them, we put it in the queue for design and then construction. Now, normally, because of backlogs, it takes us about 3 years, but when we can combine it with another project, then we push it ahead, whether it's using the ATSAC program or possibly using transportation-specific funds in an area, we'll try to push it ahead that way.
So you really didn't answer my question. Where are the requests? I mean, again, this is a great program citywide, but before someone thought about this, you know, I already have in requests for left turn signals. Are they going to be just a part of this whole program, or are they going to still be ahead of schedule before you decide to do the whole city?
If it's a very recent request that you've given us, we're in the process of studying it and evaluating it. Normally, it takes us about 2 months to collect the data, to then get back to you to let you know if we are going to authorize it. If your request is several months old, then it's probably on this list here of locations that we're going to install. For example, in your district, there are 21 in the queue, and certainly if there are new requests, we're going to add them on to this list. This is
I just don't want these to get
list.
swallowed up in, you know, a giant bureaucratic effort to install left turn signals all over the city of Los Angeles. That's all I'm saying. Let me ask another question. Left turn signals certainly are safe. They certainly make it easier and safer for people to turn left. I believe in protected green arrows for left turns. I have heard complaints, and I must say I have them myself, on red arrows, left turn arrows. A lot of us feel like that actually impedes traffic flow. I was literally at one today. It was not a blind intersection. I had complete clear sight. It was a green arrow for the majority of the traffic. My left turn was red. I sat there fuming, angry. There wasn't a car coming towards me in sight. It seems to me we've taken away the discretion of the driver to know whether or not it's safe to turn left. I can understand protected green left turn arrows. I have a problem with red left turn arrows. I can understand, again, if it's a blind intersection and you think you have to protect everybody, but I like the old, if it's not a green arrow, it's, you know, yield to traffic unless you have your green arrow.
Certainly, we'd be glad to look at the specific location you have in mind. The majority of the green arrows that we're putting in now as part of this program would allow you to turn green on the circular green if a gap appears,
Right.
or if it doesn't and a
Good.
queue develops, to turn
Good.
green on the arrow. In
Good.
fact, with most of these designs, we're putting a detector in the left turn lane so that if cars queue up 4 or 5 deep, that will activate the left turn arrow so that you get it when you really need it.
Good, and I think that's also an issue with green left turn arrows is the timing. I know we
Right.
wait for a long time for them to be installed in an intersection only to find they're 3 seconds long, and again, adds to frustration and anger and impeding traffic flow. So hopefully, we really are paying attention to the timing on those. But I'd like you to take a look at some of the red left turn arrows and see whether or not they're actually impeding traffic as opposed to making it safer for motorists.
Glad to get that
Okay.
List from you, and
Thank you.
we'll take a close look at it.
Thank you, Ms. Han. Mr. Labange?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Grewal. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Thank you as well. Mr. Fisher, I want you to attack this not in 3 years. I want you to go for it because people are very frustrated. It's all about transportation. And I want you to come back to us and say you need more help because next to our public safety, traffic is the #1 issue. And I believe in synchronized lights, but we need synchronized drivers. And often people go so fast. You know, they gave a ticket on Los Feliz Boulevard the other day going 92 miles an hour. Guy should go straight to jail and get his car impounded for 10 years for that. It's crazy how people are driving. But synchronized lights are very important, as well as synchronized driving, educating people on this issue here. Also, I want you to look at the San Fernando Valley and look at Sherman Way, look at Victory, look at Roscoe, and focus on those, no matter whose district it is, but all those streets in the corridor. So you can make those streets safer moving streets that move east-west across the San Fernando Valley floor. I think it's extremely important to do that. Mr. Fisher, do you get reports from the fire department on accidents that they go to respond to? Because the police department doesn't investigate traffic like they used to. So I'm going to ask Avak to do a motion to make sure every traffic accident that takes place in the city that the fire has responses to, they go to. There's a signal light that you haven't been able to install at Riverside Drive and the Glendale Freeway off-ramp that is constantly an accident. And I love the fact that, you know, it's just, we need to fight for you more, is what I'm saying, John, because it's all, your department hasn't been, and the fight is being brought up by others around here, led by Ms. Grewal. I fought over there at the MTA board and will continue to fight, but we got to fight real hard because it's all about the 3 E's, engineering, that's you, education, and enforcement, which is so important because sometimes people get out to those left turn pockets and hang out there, and they don't hit the loop in the center of the street. So you got to come back to us and say, and I don't think it's acceptable, members, 3 years. We should say, we're going to do this, and boom, boom, boom. The people want it done. But Avak, I want the department to get more information on accidents at the fire department. Because I talk to firefighters, you know where I go? I go to my firehouse, say, where's the toughest place you should get a signal? And they tell me, Riverside, old 56 is out there. They say, roll down to Riverside there and Glendale because people come off the freeway. Caltrans going to pay for it, right?
Well, we certainly agree at that location that a signal is justified, and we've been working with our counterparts in Caltrans to try to get them to agree and to finance 50% of the cost.
Right.
We're still working on it, but we
And
are
also-
firm that a signal is needed there.
Also, Avak, I want a motion to say, how are your white glove guys doing? The officers, the men and women who are out there to direct the traffic in the intersections, how are they doing? Hold my time, will you?
I think they're making a difference at those locations where traffic queues into the intersection from another section. They're keeping the intersection clear.
Right.
They're keeping it from getting gridlocked, and they're keeping traffic flowing through those
Right, but
intersections.
we want to see an update to see how we can be mobile
Okay.
and move on that. Madam President, thank you, and I think if you also concentrate on Highland Avenue, which is being relinquished, give us more support there. I know we have funding from the state coming. It's all about traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you for this initiative to the department and Ms. Grewal for pushing this forward. And not only, I mean, when we were up in Sacramento lobbying on the infrastructure bond, the governor set as a goal for the state of a 20% reduction in traffic with synchronization, left-hand turn level lanes, and arrows, I guess DOT has estimated that might be 7 to 10% here alone. So we're trying to say, give us that help. We can get you to about half your goal in the largest metropolitan area here in Los Angeles simply by doing these simple things. That they do have a cost, but they're not as expensive as building roads out as well. A couple questions. I know we met about this as well, and I am it is rare, colleagues, that I stand up and just crow about my own district. I did want to point out that 1 out of 49, 2.5 out of 37, which is that one's okay. 1 out of 35, and then 0 out of 49 intersections happen to be in my district in the next 4, if you include this fiscal year, and the next 3. We talked in that meeting about Hollywood and Highland, which we're paying folks right now to be out there in white gloves, which is still here at 2007 and 8. Can we amend this to move that forward more quickly? And it isn't just a district-specific one. In Oscar Week of all weeks, people can appreciate that intersection. But this is, I've been told by a traffic engineer, literally a choke point in and out of the Cahuenga Pass. It affects traffic in and out of the San Fernando Valley, which I know is getting its fair share here. Can we move that one up in this?
Absolutely. I think we're getting several $1 million in relinquishment funds, and it'd certainly be our recommendation that we program some of those funds for improvements at that location, as well as at several other signals along Highland Avenue. We'll be glad to work with your office on that.
We would look forward to moving that forward more quickly. I also understand that Sunset and Echo Park was recently added. I didn't see it in this report, but when I called my staff, they said that in conversations since the last couple of days, that they had been assured by the department that that could be included in part of this program. Can we make sure, I'm sure this isn't locked in place, Ms. Gruhl, if there's some small changes need to be made, so if we can look at making that.
Certainly, this report is a growing report, and will constantly be amended, and we'll keep adding new projects.
And just for folks, from other districts, I do appreciate too this map, which shows the existing left-hand turn lanes and lights that are there. So, I'm not blind to the fact that the CD13 is a very small district. We have quite a good infrastructure of existing left-hand turn lanes, and we thank folks for that. Those are green dots here. I don't know if we can get a zoom in on this from our friends over at Channel 35, but we can also, this is up on the DOT website as well for the public, or is it not?
We haven't posted it on our website.
Okay.
We've distributed it to all the council members, but certainly it's something we could do.
Well, we'll work with DOT to if folks want to see in their own districts, they certainly can come to our website at cd13.com, and we'll get that up, and that shows folks the ones that exist as well as the program moving forward. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Fisher, you got a very frustrating job because the patchwork that we're doing is simply patchwork. I've worked traffic for many, many years, and as the volume increases, more and more people on the roads, fewer people using public transit, we're doing patchwork. And when I look at the patchwork, I've got 6 locations in my district that are scheduled to be installed. That's going to have some relief. But I think some people have a false impression that this is going to help relieve traffic congestion in the city of Los Angeles. What it's going to do is maybe get you through that left turn, and then the next quarter you're going to have to be blocked up in traffic once again. And I know that if I could ride my motorcycle back and forth to work, I would be able to get here quicker, but I'm still going to be fighting the traffic every single day. We need to somehow, along with this, which I'm not saying is a negative, it's just not going to give the big result that we want, that we're trying to accomplish with moving people, millions and millions of people, whether they're on the freeway or on the surface streets, to say that this is going to be the end-all of the traffic jam in the city of Los Angeles. One location that I know that we're putting a new hospital in, I don't see it here, is at Sherman Way in Tampa. They're putting a new hospital at the Jewish Home for the Aging on the southeast corner. I've made some requests for that. A number of people will be going into that hospital, which will be much more traffic congestion than we have now. And the other question I have for you is when they're doing a development, as we're doing Warner Center, as they're doing Century City, as they're doing near Staples, do those locations, when the traffic study is done, are those locations added onto this, or those locations included in this when it comes to the left turns and other traffic improvements that are going to take place?
Certainly, whenever we look at the impacts of development and the need for left turn assistance, we require that of the developer wherever we can. If it's been already authorized and we know the date, it appears in this list. If the date is uncertain or we're not sure when the project is going forward, it may not be in this list. But certainly, we use every opportunity we can to get the developer to put in some of the signal improvements that are needed.
Would those be in addition to the ones we see here on this list? Or is this a comprehensive list of everything we have in this list?
This is the list that we know of this week.
Okay.
And we know a lot of things are in study right now. A lot of things are maybe being negotiated with developers. They will then appear on our ongoing list maybe next month. So this is a growing list.
This is constantly changing. For
Yes.
example, Santa Monica Boulevard, I know they're doing major renovation between the freeway and
Right.
Beverly Hills. Those locations, that wouldn't be on this list at this particular time?
It should be. It
should be.
Because we're putting in left turn arrows with that project as well.
Okay, and I know that there's a process that takes place to do the installation, et cetera, the modifications. How long does it take normally, where we have a signal intersection, over 4,000, I understand, in the city of Los Angeles, to make that conversion from the regular traffic signal at the location to the addition of the left turn lanes, the left turn arrows, I should say?
If we are asked to study it today and we go through the study to determine that it's justified and we program it for design and for construction, right now it's taking about 3 years. If, on the other hand, we have a project already in the area, such as an ATSAC project, a street lighting project, any other construction project, we will use the opportunity of that project to put it in now.
So if we do have, because we're not talking about adding signal intersections, we're talking about modifying the intersections that already have the signals.
Right. That takes about 3 years right now, and certainly that's not a time period that we're happy with, but it's the result of the hiring freeze where we were reduced down to about 40% of our staff over a 3-year period. So we're trying to play catch up now, and unfortunately we have that 3-year backlog. But that's why we tried to look at other ways of accelerating the program, because we knew we had that backlog and we had to find other ways of getting it done.
And then if we're doing something with a major development, as they're doing the hotel, the
Right.
center at the Staples, the Warner Center, the billion-dollar expansion that Westfield's doing, that is done out of a separate fund, separate people? We don't wait the 3 years for that? Is there an expedited process?
That is done when the project is done, and it's done by the developer.
Okay.
And it has to be operational before he occupies his new development.
So the development they're doing in Century City now, that would be the developer's responsibility?
Yes,
not-
it would.
Okay, so that would be done a lot quicker than the 3-year?
Right, right.
So most of these that we have listed here would be around 3-year for full implementation?
It's a mix. We identify here the year in which each of these will be done. Again, if it's being done by departmental forces, from the beginning of the process to the end, it's generally 3 years. Some of them are in different points in the pipeline.
Okay.
Other ones are being done by ATSAC projects or street lighting projects, and they have their own time schedule here. So what we've provided to you is a 4-year schedule of all of those projects, and they're dictated by the nature of the project and the time when they first came to us.
Okay, just one final,
Mr.
thank you. Then one final. Are you up to adequate staffing at this time, or do we need to add additional staff as you were down the number of personnel in that section?
Fortunately, we have filled most of the vacancies we had as a result of the hiring freeze, and we're almost at full strength now, so we hope to make a lot of headway in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Thank you. Mr. Labange.
Mr. Fisher, on the signalized intersection, I want you to be strongly focused too on pedestrians because they get confused. I remarked when Mr. Garcetti spoke often that eastbound Hollywood Boulevard left turn, people are walking even though they're not supposed to walk, so make sure you take in pedestrians. And also you have a new signalized head that goes the time counter down.
Right. As part of our conversion of all of our signals to light-emitting diode lamps, we will be putting in countdown signals
Okay, here's
at
what I
all
need
of
to
our
do. I need
intersections.
a second to this amendment. I need you to give a 0, because I watched this one out here, and you go down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. and then you go change the signal. I need a 0 because people get stuck out there. So take some off the top. A friendly amendment to give a little more time for the walking man or woman. Ms. Hahn, can I have a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Second, to change a little the time, to take it off so it stays 0 for a while. Because you go down to 1 and then you change the light and you're stuck out in the intersection. You got that?
Tom, I understand the concern. The national guidelines say you go to 0, leave it at 0 for a second, and then you just display the solid hand. That means don't walk. Those are the national requirements.
Well, I see in other towns that they don't do that.
Right,
so,
they put them in before there are national guidelines.
I'm not going to review that and then come up with another motion to review it and challenge the national
But I'd be
thing, 'cause
glad,
the people get hung on.
to talk with you about that.
All right, thank you. I get the second. Hold that second. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. And this, this is fabulous. This discussion we have had today demonstrates the importance of these things. None of them are silver bullets, and as much as we'd like to think this will solve all our traffic problems, but it is a step in the right direction. And as Mr. Fisher mentioned, what we really tried to do here was, instead of the department kind of figuring out 1 here, 2 here, how are we going to fund this, what's our plan for the year, that you really looked at, how do we do a comprehensive approach that takes into consideration everyone's concerns that Ms. Hahn has in her district or Mr. Garcetti, and this is an evolving document. We know that if an accident occurs at a particular location next week that was specifically related and can be identified of not having a left-hand turn signal or some other problem, we would make those changes. So it's an evolving document to reflect that. Also, one of the things that we talked about, Mr. Labange, was the importance also of the time it takes for installation, design, et cetera, and an expedited review of that. The department is going to come back with ways in which we can reduce the time it takes to actually install once you've determined that we know a signal should be done in that area. And I think the same thing that Ms. Hahn mentioned on the left-hand turn signals versus a right red is something we all hear about, and that each intersection should be looked at. Colleagues, we're also going to ask, I know Mr. Labange asked this question on the fire department, but we've already asked the police department to review this list and to come back to us and indicate if they have further information that would prioritize this list differently than what the department has done. And so I think it is a compliment to that, if Avak is still here, that it will be, we have already asked the police department to do that as well. So I just want to say thank you to everyone, and that this is a priority of all of us to get our streets moving again and to respond to your individual requests, but also to look at the big picture as to how we do that with this list that actually is comprehensive in nature. So I just want to thank you all for this, and thank you to the department. And as you can see, Mr. Fisher, which if you didn't already know, left-hand turn signals are not only important to us as electeds, but our constituents, which you hear from all the time. So
I see a lot of interest in the matter.
You see a lot of interest in this area, and we will have that discussion in budget to make sure, again, that we are supporting. But this is the kind of the first time we've had a comprehensive list that people can look at and know where they are and to know where the priorities are. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl. All right, there are no further speakers in the queue. Madam Clerk, I believe that there is one motion on the desk, isn't there? It's just a friendly amendment. Okay, then go ahead and let's open the roll, or call the roll. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Item number 10, and that was called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Thank you, Madam President. Just on item 10, I would, instead of the recommendation to receive and file, I would move that we oppose as the motion had that Mr. Garcetti, myself and Mr. Labange put forward. And I understand the hesitation of some to say it's a different jurisdiction, but it's actually the cities in the area, Aliso Viejo, Laguna Beach, Oceanside, have all opposed this road that goes through that park. And so I would ask that we join with the environmental community. NRDC is here today, and others in opposing instead of receiving and filing, as the motion first said.
So that's a substitute motion?
To move the motion, to move the original motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
Move to approve?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl.
I just wanted to stand up and say that I agreed with Mr. Garcetti and to approve that item. as he's amended it. Substitute.
As a substitute.
And it would require a vote to question of whether to substitute, and
Okay.
then
We'll do the
Okay.
move on the substitution, and then we'll vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you open the roll?
and that's a question of whether to substitute.
All right, then open the roll on the substitution then. Close the roll, and then tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
And now vote on.
And that is now before the council to
Vote on the
oppose.
item itself. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you very much. Next item?
Next item is item number 28, and that was called special for a card from the public.
I believe, item 23? Yes, thank you. We have a speaker card from a Mr. Harrison Wheel or Weil. Item 28. Mr. Harrison Weil?
Yeah.
Wheel?
Wheel.
Harrison Wheel or Weil, item 28.
Not just close the public comment.
All right, that'll close the public comment on this item. The item is now before us. No one wishes to be heard. We can go ahead and open the roll, Madam Clerk. Close the roll, and then tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item, Madam President, is item number 29, and that was also called special for a card from the public.
Okay. Mr. Bruce Campbell.
Happy midday, council members. I believe that fees and costs should be covered for this event for the Guatemalan and Central American communities. A number of the South Central farmers are from Central America, often fleeing U.S.-backed wars and repression in their area, and the uprooting of these people will increase upon the passage of the Central America Free Trade Agreement. There are many indigenous, a number of the South Central farmers are from, there are many indigenous food and medicinal plants at the South Central Farm from Mexico, Central, and South America. Some botanists believe that the South Central Farm is one of the few places in the nation where there is such a concentration of heirloom, rare, nutritious, and indigenous food crops and medicinal plants. Let these folks have their event and further help their community by saving the South Central Farm, which could be evicted within a few days due to shady land maneuverings by the City of LA to help a greedy developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, the public wishing to be heard on this? If not, that closes our public comment. Anybody wishing to be heard on this item from the council? Seeing none, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is item number 31, called special for a card from the public.
Okay, item number 31 is now before us. Bruce Campbell, would you like to come forward again?
Good day once more, council members. I support waiving fees and costs related to this health, resource, and book fair. A few months ago, there was a health fair held at the South Central Farm featuring UCLA doctors and medical students, which tested or treated close to 150 people, ranging from grandparents or even great-grandparents to babies. The farm had requested that Councilwoman Perry assist by blocking off a street so the health fair would be more visible to the community, but she refused. Why help one event which is partially a health fair and reject an event which is entirely a health fair? Fortunately, the health fair was held on the farm itself rather than on an adjacent street. Good day.
Thank you very much. That closes public comment on this item. Any council members wishing to be heard on this? Seeing none, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is item number 49, and that was called special by Councilmember Gruhl.
Okay. 37, we skipping
I'm
over?
sorry.
I'm sorry. I think we have
Item number
37 first, Ms.
37.
Gruhl. Sorry. We did not forget you, Mr. Parks. Item 37, I caught it. You're on. You're on.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, many of you may recall several months ago, well, I take it back, a couple of years ago, that we had two families come in where we had a double homicide in the community, and they asked for community support. This is a renewal of a $75,000 reward motion on an event that occurred on Monday, May 24th in 2004 at about 11:55 p.m. Brian Butler, 25 years of age, and Melvin Knowles, also 25, were fatally wounded by unknown suspects at the 7800 block of 9th Avenue. What was unique about these two young men were lifelong friends, and Mr. Butler was on active duty with the U.S. Navy at the time of his murder. He had just finished serving a tour of duty in Iraq and was on leave until the next deployment in June of 2004. Neither he nor Mr. Knowles were involved in any criminal activity, nor were they involved in gangs. But we're asking for anyone that has information relative to this case to contact Detective Sato at LAPD 77th Division Homicide at 213-485-1383, and hopefully we can bring this case to a conclusion. This case recently was highlighted during a Tuesday LA Most Wanted segment on Channel 11 at 10 p.m. newscast, hoping that we bring more attention to this circumstance. So we ask for an aye vote on the renewal of a reinstatement of the reward motion.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. If nobody else wishes to be heard on this, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please, on that. Next item is 49, which is called special cards from the public. So we will.
Yes, I
and as
wanted
we'll
to ask
move
if we
the
could
public-
have a public hearing.
Yeah, it is. It's automatically triggered since public comment. Public hearing has not been held. So we'll move 10 minutes there. Bill Ike is our first speaker, and then Maria Mejia, Curtis King. Those are our first three speakers. If they'd line up, please. You do have up to 2 minutes each. We have more than 5 cards, though, and 10 minutes for public hearing. So anything that you don't use will allow those speakers at the very end, the last 2, to speak as well. Please.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Bill Ike. I reside at 9647 Stonehurst Avenue, Sun Valley, California. I'm the president of the Shadow Hills Property Owners Association. This is a project where the planning department has decided to create what they call a zone correction. What this actually is a zone change. The planning department, this is part of ongoing litigation. The city's been sued over failure to comply with environmental impact reports. They've lost. They've actually been ordered to pay attorney's fees to Ms. Mejia. This is just kind of a continuing effort by the city of Los Angeles to thwart the law and to thwart the will of the community. And I can't tell you how much it would have been really wonderful if the planning department had decided to hold community hearings and investigate the record before they decided to just approve this project. And I would urge you all, because to deny this zone correction and to send this back to the regular zoning process, if they want a zone change, they can file for a zone change. Okay, this has been on the city records as its existing zone, and now 15 years later they're saying, oh, you know what, we think we made a mistake 15 years ago, so we're going to correct it. No, this matter needs to be. It's not a correction, it's a zone change. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Maria Mejia.
Good afternoon, honorable council members.
afternoon.
I've had to file 2 lawsuits because the city has failed to follow the law and has failed to require an environmental impact report on this proposed development. Now, this is a 3rd attempt to try to bypass the Court of Appeals decision and approve this development without a properly noticed hearing, without conducting an EIR, and without following proper approval procedures. People wonder why I filed 2 lawsuits contesting this, and the reason is I believe in justice, and I believe that people should be treated fairly. I believe that all people, irrespective of social, economic, or racial background, deserve to be treated fairly during administrative hearings, and that has not been the case here. I believe the reason there have not been fair hearings is initially the former councilman received direct campaign contributions from the developer and the developer's attorney. And currently, what I would like to ask is all the council members whether you have received campaign contributions from the developer, his attorneys, past and present, and any family members or any other corporate entities. I know certain council members have received laundered campaign contributions from the Kasdan developer, and there was an investigation into that. So I'd like for you to please disclose any campaign contributions before you vote on changing this zoning on this development without following the law. And I urge you, please try to be fair, because you have not been fair in the past, and that's why I have had to spend thousands of dollars in litigation to get the city to simply do its job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Curtis King is our next speaker, and then Bob Reyna will be following that, to be followed by Tamar Stein.
I'm a resident of Shadow Hills. I live just west of the proposed zone change, and I am currently involved in litigation with Mr. Patrick Wiseman in California Home Development as well. I have another development on the north side of me with Andy Byrne, and just comparing the two developers and their approach to the development of their respective properties, I must say that Mr. Wiseman has been less than professional. He has sued numerous of the immediate neighbors, and that location has caused quite a disruption in the daily activities of the community, and that's one of the reasons I'm here today. Also, regarding the hillside zoning, I live at 1,200 feet elevation. My property is at 9921 Wheatland. There's another neighbor who lives at 9949.5 Wheatland, Mr. McChesney, and Patrick's property lies, Mr. Wiseman's, California Home Development's property lies between us, and both of our properties are zoned as hillside, so I do not see how Mr. Wiseman's can be zoned anything but hillside. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bob Reyna.
Good morning, Honorable Council. My name is Bob Reyna. I live at 10534 Colebrook Street in Shadow Hills. My property is also adjacent to this proposed property, and this is indeed a zone change, not merely a correction. I have submitted to the public record over 35 or 40 letters from other neighbors who also are requesting that the city perform the EIR, which was mandated by the Court of Appeal. I also submitted that decision along with this, and it states that an EIR must be performed before any zone change or land use issues are performed on this property. In the past, the Department of Building and Safety has shut down the operation because Mr. Wiseman was grading illegally. And by grading illegally, he moved earth, he tried to dissolve that hillside and the prominent ridge line. Also, in previous administrative records, there were neighbors who stated that 28 homes, which this zone change would allow, that the 28 homes would be inappropriate and too many for this 17.2 acre. That neighbor is now an employee of Mr. Wiseman and was granted a parcel of property adjacent to her house. So she changed her tune at that point. Also, in one of Mr. Curtis King's hearings, Mr. Wiseman stated he wanted to dissolve the road up to Mr. King's house because the hillside was too steep for even his four-wheel vehicle to get up there. Thank you. And pictures are worth 1,000 words, and I have pictures of the hillside if anybody wants.
You can give those to the Sergeant at Arms, and we'll make sure
Thank you,
this.
sir.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Tamar Stein.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and Council.
We have other cards as well. Don't worry. Tamar Stein. Yep.
Tamar is representing the owner of the property. I think we have a couple who are in opposition. If we could go ahead and have those
Finish the
individuals
opposition?
Finish the opposition, if that would be okay.
If you don't mind, Ms. Stein, we'll just finish
So-
with that, and then we'll have you. Marla Martinez, and then Mary Ann
Marion
Geyer.
Geyer, I think, are the other two.
afternoon, honorable council members. I represent the property owner at 994.5 Wheatland Avenue. His property is directly affected by this ordinance change for the last several 8 years. He has had to comply with the current zoning ordinance as it stands, as well as Hillside Ordinance numbers 168159 and number 174652. As his property, it is an area which the general plan, as defined by the general plan of the Sunland Tonga, Lakeview Terrace, Shadow Hills Community Plan, has set out the requirements for this particular property. I strongly disagree with the findings of the Director of Planning. By approving this ordinance, the council is not correcting an erroneously changed ordinance, but is in fact changing and amending the ordinance. By passing the ordinance, zoning will no longer comply with the city's Shadow Hills Sunland Tonga Community Plan and will change the character of the area by allowing developments inconsistent with this community plan. I would recommend that you send it back to the Planning Department for further study. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Marianne Geyer?
Thank you very much, Council President, members of the council. Mary Ann Geyer, President of Foothill Trails Neighborhood Council. Neighborhood Council has taken a position in opposition to this. I'd like to go on and state, you know, item number 7 today, the City Council, you all talked about the insurance companies not following the law. And that's what we have before us today on this specific item. There's been 2 lawsuits filed. The interim planning director, city staff, city attorney, they've not even looked at the administrative record that clearly addresses both the AB 283 process that addressed this issue, as well as this tentative track that's before us. We do not see this as a zone correction. We see this as a zone change, and we feel that it should go back and comply with the process of the LAMC, not limited to Section 1204. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Stein?
Good afternoon once again. My name is Tamar Stein of the law firm of Cox Castle and Nicholson. I represent California Home Development, the owner of Sub-Area 921, which is the subject of the correction ordinance. I'd like to start by saying that what we don't have here today is a project or a proposed development. My client has not even, in his own mind, mapped out what he wants to do with this property next. What is on the table is a correction ordinance for a zoning map error. It was a simple human error that resulted in the wrong map being attached to the ordinance. The map that was attached did not reflect what the City Council had voted for. And what the City Council had voted for was that Sub-Area 921 be excluded from the ordinance and not be rezoned. This is based on the independent investigation of the city. At the Plum hearing, the city attorney said that at this point, now that the city has discovered the error, it's still bound to bring this property into consistency. And she concluded that the council never took an action to rezone this sub-area RE40. And it was for that reason the city should take this action. I have submitted a transcript of the Plum hearing to all of you with our recent submission of February 28. And Mr. Scott, the planner, also explained exactly how the wrong map came to be attached to the ordinance at that time. I suggest to you that it is only fair and it is only just for the city to correct a mistake it made in the zoning ordinance. If my client should bring forward a specific project, I'm sure Council Member Gruhl in her office and all of the community will have plenty to say about it, as is their right. I do want to mention...
If I can ask you to conclude, please.
If I might have a moment.
I'm sorry, it's 2 minutes. It's our council policy. If I can ask you to conclude.
Okay. I would just like to then ask you to support the Plum recommendation and report to you my client has never been shut down by Building and Safety for anything. And of course, the Mejia case related only to the project the court vacated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gruhl?
Thank you. If I could ask for the Planning Department and City Attorney to come up to the table, please. Colleagues, obviously, you can tell this has been a controversial project. Some decisions which were actually made prior to becoming a city council member, but it relates to the 17-acre parcel, in Shadow Hills. And there has been several items of litigation in reference to this particular site. So I want to make sure that whatever our city departments and city attorney are recommending are following the law based on what the appeals court, the Court of Appeals decision. And I want to make sure that we're treating this in the right way because I questioned both the city attorney and planning department when they suggested this was just a correction ordinance and not a zone change. This is the first I've ever heard of a correction ordinance, and it seemed rather unusual to me. So I'd like to ask a couple questions of the planning staff, Dan, that we have heard today. One is maybe just a history of why you're recommending this correction ordinance, and with the correction ordinance, are we required to perform a new environmental review? It was mentioned by some of the speakers about it being a hillside issue and within the hillside ordinance and a prominent ridge line. And then lastly, sorry I'm throwing a lot out here, but there was also mention of that the zone change is not consistent with the general plan. And hold my time.
Thank you. I'm Daniel Scott from the City Planning Department. Councilmember Gruhl and members. On May 21st, 1991, Sub-Area 921 was created. And Sub-Area 921 was created so that this sub-area would not be part of the rezoning process. It was subtracted out. On December 4, 1991, the City Council adopted ordinances that affected thousands of acres of property. And what was finally adopted by the council was turned into a zoning ordinance on September 23, 1998. And what should have occurred is this is the ordinance that was adopted in 1998. What should have occurred is that 921 never was supposed to be part of this ordinance. The ordinance map also incorrectly identifies two subareas 920. What actually should have occurred is that this area to the east should never have been part of the zoning ordinance. And what you have in front of you this afternoon is a correction ordinance that correctly identifies the zoning as RA1K. And that was the zoning that is consistent with the community plan of very low 1 in the Sunland-Tujunga plan. So it's completely, the zoning is consistent with the plan designation, and the planning department erred in not following the direction of the city council, their action of 1991.
And so on the hillside issue, though, and the prominent ridgeline, is that?
Those issues truly do not come into play. The council acted and the planning department failed to represent the council's action when they created the zoning ordinance.
So I guess this is a question of the city attorney. If we said today, you know, we don't want to do this correction ordinance, we'd like to say that it's a zone change, what is the recommendation of the city attorney as to this issue?
Sharon Seedorf Cardenas, for the record, City Attorney's Office. Once upon a time, the legislature passed what we call AB 283, which required that the City of Los Angeles have its zoning consistent with the general plan. In the case before you today, the zoning is not consistent with the general plan. The adoption of the recommended zone change, which they're calling the correction ordinance, would in fact bring our zoning into consistency with the general plan, and that's why the council should do that.
But I guess the question I have, because we have a lot of those around the city where we have zoned something differently and it's not with the general plan. This is a little bit more specific, it sounds like, that the ordinance what Dan is saying is that the actual ordinance that was adopted in 98 it was, didn't do it correctly, not that we zoned it something differently. Those seem two different things to me, although consistent.
Well, actually, what happened was, based upon the facts as presented by the planning department, is that at the time that the zoning ordinance for this particular property was, or this sub-area was done, it actually created the inconsistency. Prior to that time, the zone and the plan were consistent. By adopting the wrong ordinance, the city created an inconsistency, which it's now obligated to restore the consistency.
And so your recommendation is?
We would recommend that the council make the zoning consistent with the general plan as obligated by state law.
And does this, if the council is required to do this, does this meet the Court of Appeals, the Maria Mejia case? Is it consistent with the decision by the Court of Appeals? Because we had advice before from the city attorney to go in a certain direction, and it was overturned.
The Maria Mejia case concerned the tract map for a particular piece of property. It did not consider the zoning. And it said that in order to approve that tract map, you needed to do an environmental impact report. This does not change that. You may still have to do an environmental impact report when a new project is presented to you.
And that case was based on a project that the developer had proposed previously and is now scrapping that and is going to come back at some point with something else that may or may not require us to have an EIR. Is that correct?
That's correct. You'll have to look at whatever new project is presented at that time.
Colleagues, this is a tough one for me because I have a very active community that I support that always brings forward some great information that allows us to sometimes take different positions than were previously recommended. I know my staff in committee, in Plum Committee, reluctantly, I would say, supported the city attorney's advice on this. And so I would have to say that, and that's why I wanted them to be here today, that I'm still reluctantly having to support that because I still think it's a little bit murky, but have been advised by the city attorney, and you have today, that this is what they recommend that would protect the city in this instance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gruhl. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard from the council? Seeing none, Mr. Rosendahl?
Just one question. If the zone is put in to be corrected, is basically what the attorney is saying, what will that do to the character and scale of the neighborhood potentially? Can they build more units? Would it be more dense? What options does it give the developer that the developer doesn't have right now?
The zoning is consistent with the general plan land use designation of very low 1, which sets out various densities in the community. So my response would be that any type of development would be completely consistent with what the Sunland-Tujunga Community Plan lays out.
But that particular block,
I think what he's asking is how, and same question I would be, sorry, Mr. President, take a little bit of your time, Bill,
Sure,
which is
great.
the issue of how many homes are allowed today under the existing zone, as whether correctly or incorrectly, and how many homes would be allowed under the now correction ordinance you're recommending. Is that where you're going?
That's exactly right. Thank you.
My understanding is that the previous project would have contained 28 units, and that project had been downscaled to approximately 21 units, which is within the range of the very low 1 density.
But again, my colleague's comment, if we did not change the zoning from what may be a technical violation or not, how many units would they be allowed to make?
The RE40 zone allows 1 unit for every 40,000 square feet versus the RA zone, which allows 1 unit for every 17,500 square feet.
So you're telling me it's double from what it would be if it was what it is, perceived at least by some of the community people?
Approximately, but the zoning would then be inconsistent with the general
Oh,
plan
I
land
understand
use.
that, I understand that. So instead of how many units, 40 versus 20, is that 21?
Approximately, yes, that's correct.
Okay, and even though it's zoned the way you just said, if it is or whatever, what about that particular street and traffic and all these other issues?
Those issues would be addressed when the appropriate environmental clearance was done for the tract, if the developer decides to go forward with the project.
Okay, well, thanks, appreciate it.
Ms. Gruhl?
I just want to make it clear, it's not 40 homes they could build there, correct? It's 21 versus 28, is that correct?
That's correct. That is the range that I have heard
range.
associated with the project.
Okay. And when a project comes back to, I mean, he will have to file a new track map and a new
Absolutely.
project and a new, so fortunately or unfortunately, this is not the last time we will be hearing about this project with the participation of the community and the developer and the discussions as that goes forward, and whether or not an EIR will be required at that time. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl. If there's nobody else wishing to be heard, will you please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote?
12 ayes.
That is approved. I believe that is the last item. Is that true, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. President, council
Right.
has motions for posting and referral.
Let's post and refer those.
The excuses on the desk, Councilmember Weezer requests to be excused March 28th, 29th, and 31st, and June 6th, all for personal business, and they all meet council policy.
Okay, Mr. Weezer is excused for those dates.
Councilmember Reyes requests to be excused March 8th and 22nd to leave at 11:30. For city business, a motion is required.
Okay, Mr. Rosendahl moves, Mr. Parks seconds. If there's no objection, that'll be a unanimous vote, and Mr. Reyes is excused.
And Mr. Reyes requests to be excused the second, third, and fourth Wednesdays to leave at 12:30 for city business, and that would be for the rest of the year, and those all meet council policy.
Okay, Mr. Reyes is excused.
And Councilmember Padilla requests to be excused Wednesday, April 12th to leave at 11 a.m., and May 30th, 31st, and June 2nd for personal business. Those all meet council policy.
Okay, Mr. Padilla is excused.
And that clears the desk.
All right, announcements. Mr. Parks?
Could I have 8, 13, and 37 forthwith?
Sure. 8, 13, and 37, you said? That was the last one? Those will go forthwith. Announcements, colleagues? Mr. Parks?
Several announcements. CD 1 and 8 will be hosting a meeting at the, well, 3 meetings really, public workshop meetings Saturday, March the 4th and Saturday, March the 11th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Epic Center, and also a public hearing on Tuesday, March 14th at 6 p.m. at the California Science Center at the Locher Conference Room, and this deals with the LAMC section establishing a university off-campus housing district, and so there's a great deal of interest in that. Also, CD1 is hosting a community budget and finance meeting next week on Tuesday, March 7th, and it's going to be at the Ramona Hall at 4580 North Figueroa Street in LA, and it will hopefully draw in residents from CD1, 4, 13, and 14 to come in and talk about the next year's budget. A couple other items, long-term facility in the 8th District, THE Clinic, had to be moved because of the Marlton Square development. It's going to have its grand opening this weekend. Its new location will be 3834 Southwestern at the recently renovated Ruth Temple Health Center, and that time is opening house is 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Also, a major healthcare community meeting for the entire city to come in and talk to federal officials about the healthcare community and healthcare groups will be Saturday, March the 4th, 8:30 a.m. to 4, and that's going to be at the Convention Center. Also, just outside the 8th District, the annual Junior Blind of America Olympics will be held Saturday, March 18th at their center at 5300 Angeles Vista in LA. That's in the county area. Thank you.
Mr. Reyes?
just want to thank my colleague, the Chair of Budget and Finance, for having this important committee in Ramona Hall. A lot of the folks in the Northeast, including CD 14 and 13, are asking what's going to happen with our open space. We have these conversion of rail yards into parks. We have Ascot Park. There's a lot of issues dealing with how we're going to prioritize our budget, what's going to happen to our senior centers, our Meals on Wheels programs. And I'm hoping that this will allow us to give everyone understanding of the real tough situation we're in on the fiscal level and how to impact many of the nonprofits and the social services. So thank you, Councilmember, for coming down to District 1.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Labange?
Yeah, just lastly, I think it's with great excitement, the first ever World Baseball Classic is underway with teams from China, Korea, Japan, Chinese Taipei, Mexico, United States, Canada, South Africa, Panama, Puerto Rico, the Netherlands, Cuba, Australia, Italy, Venezuela, and Dominican Republic. It's a great activity that is exciting to watch national teams play, and it's throughout the world right now, and turn into local ESPN to watching a great game of American pastime spreading around the world.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other announcements, colleagues? I know Mr. Reyes and I both welcome the opening day for Northeast Little League tomorrow as well, up in CD1, so looking forward to being there and to welcoming that. If I can please ask everybody to rise in council chambers for our adjourning motions now. Ms. Han.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like us to adjourn today in the memory of Andy Fistanich, who was an active member of the San Pedro community, and he died earlier this week. Andy's the son of the founder of Standard Fisheries and Star Fisheries. Andy started in the fish business as a teenager and founded Andy's Seafood. He pioneered many innovations in the fish industry, including being the first to import orange roughy, as well as perfecting the tray pack system of packaging frozen seafood. He was also instrumental in packaging kosher seafood for the Jewish community. He was a lifetime member of the San Pedro Elks Club, and he loved to swing dance. He was preceded in death by his wife Pauline and is survived by his son Andy, daughter Marie, his devoted partner Patsy Tropiano, 3 sisters, 6 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. Funeral services were held yesterday. I'd also like us to adjourn our meeting today in the memory of James Cox, who passed away on February 24th at the age of 57. He was a longtime resident of our city. Mr. Cox had a long history of public service, and he was appointed by my dad, Kenny Hahn, as a commissioner on the county's Justice System Advisory Group, where he helped to review government grants and funding priorities and gave those recommendations to the county supervisors. Funeral services are today at the Welcome Baptist Church on Central Avenue.
Thank you, Ms. Han. Mr. Huizar?
Thank you, Mr. President. I request that we adjourn today in memory of Berta Cuevas Osuna, a CD14 resident and sister of a good friend. Ms. Osuna passed away on Tuesday, February 28th at White Memorial Hospital in Boyle Heights. She's the daughter of Porfirio and Hermina Cuevas. She was born on July 23rd, 1963 at Lincoln Hospital in Boyle Heights. She was the eldest of 10 siblings, 6 boys and 4 girls. She was a graduate of Evergreen Elementary School, Belvedere Junior High, and Roosevelt High School. She married Pastor Osuna in 1985 and later had 3 sons, Pastor Junior, Ricardo, and David. Bertha worked at Albertsons Supermarket in Montebello, where she served as the bakery manager. As a union member of UFCW Local 770, Bertha stood in solidarity with her union brothers and sisters during the 5-month grocery strike to save their affordable health care and maintain pension benefits for their families. She had 2 passions, baking cakes and shopping until she dropped. Everyone knew of her delicious cakes she baked for birthdays, weddings, and holidays. Her shopping sprees at Christmas were well known by her family and friends. Every year, her bedroom would be full of gifts to the point that she and her husband would have to sleep on the floor. Bertha will be remembered by all as a compassionate, funny, and loving person. She is survived by her mother, Hermina Cuevas, her brothers and sisters, Ray, Peter, Rolando, also known as the Big O, David, Lucia, Elvira, Chuy, Veronica, and Juan, her loving husband, Pastor Osuna, and her 3 sons, Pastor Junior, Ricardo, and David. And I want to say a few words in Spanish to the family who I was told may be watching today. Les quería decir a la familia que el concilio sentimos lo que pasó y que aquí estamos pasando esta emoción en la memoria de Berta Cuevas Osuna y de parte del concilio. Les mandamos nuestros sentidos y estamos con ustedes en este tiempo. Gracias.
Thank you. If I could second that. Mr. Labange.
Yeah, members, I ask we adjourn in memory, all of us in memory of Kenneth Ross was the director, general manager of our municipal arts department, the prelude to cultural affairs department. Started in 1949, I believe, to when it transformed into cultural affairs. He was a wonderful man who I was very much involved in the fight to save the Watts Towers as well as restore the Hollyhock House. Kenneth Ross, 95, survived by 4 children. I ask that we adjourn in his memory.
All members, thank you.
And also, Mr. President, the great mayor, who was one of the heroes of the Chinese Revolution, a former mayor of Guangzhou, Liang Gong, passed away recently, who for 25 years ago, along with then Mayor Tom Bradley, signed the agreement between the Los Angeles and Guangzhou Sister City Association. He became the governor of the Guangdong province and led the great economic boom of that province. He is, as I said, a hero. We ask that we adjourn in memory of the late mayor of Guangzhou, Liang Lilang.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. Mr. Parks? All members on that?
Thank you, Mr. President. Sadly, I ask you to join with me in joining motion for a longtime 8th District resident, Mary Jefferson. She had a full life, not only in motherhood, family, friendships, also citizenship, and very fundamentally involved in her church. She was a major volunteer in the community of South Los Angeles, particularly an interest in youth activities, and often brought both the youth and friends under her roof to involve the volunteer side of her life. She was born in October 1949, passed away February 28th, 2006. She was only 56 years of age. Her funeral service will be held at the Greater New Jerusalem Baptist Church on Wednesday, March 8th, and she's survived by her sister, 5 daughters, 1 son, and 16 grandchildren.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks. The adjourning motions, colleagues, I ask if we adjourn memory of a name of somebody who's I'm sure familiar to a few of you in here, Rob Sandoval, a Los Angeles Superior Court judge who passed away after going into cardiac arrest and lapsing into a coma February 28th. He was a former deputy city attorney here in 1978, a graduate from California State University, Los Angeles as a poli-sci major, and graduated from McGeorge School of Law and began his legal career in 1977 as a Santa Barbara County deputy district attorney. He became an LA Municipal Court Commissioner in 1984, a Superior Court Commissioner in 1997, and received the Outstanding Judicial Officer Award from the Juvenile Courts Bar Association in November of 2000 and was then named judge of that court by then Gray Davis. Rob was then appointed to the Appellate Division in 2003, was a member of the Hispanic National Bar Association, the California Judges Association, and the International Association of Lesbian and Gay Judges. He and his partner are featured in the book that's entitled Uncommon Heroes, which is a 1995 American Library Association award-winning book profiling more than 100 gay and lesbian Americans. He is survived by his life partner, Bill Martin, and their son, Harrison. May he rest in peace. Madam Clerk, all members, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you. This meeting of the Los Angeles City Council is adjourned, and we will be meeting next on Tuesday, March 7th.